Chapter 51:17 Blood-sucking blanket. After eating breakfast, Yun Shujo lay on the recliner and went back to sleep. Everyone was already used to this. Lan Dimeo had once reprimanded her, "You're so young, why are you so lazy?" Not only was she not ashamed, she even said with conviction, "I can't help it, I'm tired. Those good ideas were all thought of by me after putting in so much effort, how can I not be tired?" When everyone heard this, although they felt that she was being unreasonable, they let her be. Who asked her to be so smart? Goei Batsao on the boat was in high spirits. This fellow never knew what it meant to be tired. From time to time, this fellow would secretly dive into the water and toss about. Since it was small in size, it would not be discovered. However, this fellow's spiritual energy was quickly almost used up, and he could not help but feel a little worried. How could he get the stinky girl to let him out? It would be best if it was a group of demonic beasts or something, so that the stinky girl could let him out. How about he do something to attract some demonic beasts over? This fellow thought about it and gave up on this plan. If it backfired and played the stinky girl to death, he would have no place to hide. At this moment, someone on the ship exclaimed, "What's that in front of us? Why does it look like a big woolen blanket?" "Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much." Goei Batsao immediately perked up. It really could do whatever it wanted. It was going to make more money from its little treasury. Compared to this fellow who only wanted chaos, the people on the boat were full of bewilderment. Hei Shinjo was also woken up. She stood up and looked into the distance. There was a big gray object floating on the surface of the water in the distance. Looking from afar, it really looked like a woolen blanket. However, even if she used her heel to think, she knew that there was no wool blanket in this 10,000-year-old swamp. Could it be moss or algae? Yun Shujo thought for a moment and said, "Stop moving forward and send a scout boat to test it out." However, at this moment, the wool blanket moved. The wool blanket that was originally flat curled up and the waves rolled. Everyone could vaguely see that the wool blanket seemed to be carrying a huge demon beast. What made everyone even more terrified was that the wool blanket was actually a living creature. They could vaguely see that its abdomen was filled with suckers, firmly sucking on the demonic beast. A moment later, the huge demonic beast's corpse floated on the surface of the water, and then sank to the bottom of the water. Mukila's voice was a little shaky as he said, "Strange, why didn't the monster that looked like the wool blanket eat that corpse?" Zhuang Ruhai said with a pale face, "If my guess is correct, the monster that looked like a woolen blanket lived on fresh blood. It only absorbed the monster's blood, so it threw the corpse away." Hearing this, everyone's hair stood on end. Blood-sucking? What the hell was this thing? It was too terrifying. Why was this 10,000-year-old swamp full of monsters? Not good. That blood-sucking carpet is swimming towards us. Qianqing cried out in alarm. Everyone immediately panicked. Even if they used their spiritual energy shields, it would not stop the monster from using its suction cups. It would easily capsize their boat. At that time, it would really be a dead end. Everyone did not care much. They quickly released their spiritual beasts, trying to block the blood-sucking carpet from approaching. The blood-sucking carpet dragged several spirit beasts into the water. Everyone's spirit beasts' attack power in the water was greatly weakened, so they were not a threat to the blood-sucking carpet at all. The blood-sucking carpet was getting closer and closer to everyone's ship. Chapter 51:18 The weakness of the vampire carpet. Just when everyone was at a loss, no one expected that the vampire carpet would suddenly stretch out 2 arms and legs and flip a ship into the water. In an instant, a few people were wrapped up by the vampire carpet and quickly became dried-up corpses. They didn't even have the chance to scream. Everyone hurriedly used all kinds of attacks to pin down the blood-sucking carpet. Only then did the people who fell into the water take the opportunity to climb onto the remaining 2 ships. Qi Tianhui was also among the people who fell into the water. His face was pale. He roared at Yun Shujo hysterically, "Yun Shujo, aren't you smart? Think of a way. Are you going to watch us die? Yun Shujo was so angry that she laughed. This Chi Tianhui was most likely a pig's brain. She was also on the ship, so she naturally had to think of everything. Otherwise, she would also die, okay? However, she really could not think of any good ideas. This blood-sucking carpet was flat and very large. Regardless of whether it was a spiritual beast or all kinds of spiritual attacks, their effects on it were very limited. In addition, it had suction cups and tentacles, making it very difficult to deal with. If they were on land, they would naturally not be afraid of it. The bad thing was that they were in a swamp, so they were greatly restricted. Yun Shujo observed for a long time, but she still could not find the weakness of the blood-sucking carpet. However, she knew that the blood-sucking carpet definitely had a weakness, but what was its weakness? Before Yun Shujo could think of anything, the blood-sucking carpet had already stretched out its limbs towards her boat, trying to flip it over. Fortunately, old Tua used all his strength to swing his palm and hit one of the limbs to the side, thus escaping the disaster. Goei Batsao on the side of the boat had been watching the show. This guy had almost made the little treasury proud, so even if he wanted to help, he couldn't. This guy originally wanted to take the initiative to ask for a fight, but when he thought of Yun Shuji's attitude towards him, he immediately dismissed the idea. He wanted to wait for the stupid girl to take the initiative to ask him for a fight, so that he wouldn't think that Go Weiba was easy to bully. Yun Shuji's forehead was already covered with fine beads of sweat. It wasn't that she was afraid, but that she was anxious. If they still couldn't think of a way, they would all be sucked dry by this blood-sucking carpet. This damn blood-sucking carpet was as disgusting as the leeches in the secular world. Yun Shujo thought of leeches and suddenly had a thought. She remembered that leeches were afraid of salt because leeches did not have skin. Once they touched enough salt, they would be dehydrated and die. Could this blood-sucking carpet also be afraid of salt? She was desperate. She took out a basin of salt and threw it at the blood-sucking carpet. The blood-sucking carpet was stretching out its arms and legs, ready to attack the ship Mukelu and the others were on. When the salt fell on it, it immediately retracted its arms and legs and dived into the water in a panic. Yun Shujo was overjoyed and shouted at the crowd, "It's afraid of salt. It's afraid of salt. If it comes out of the water again, use salt to wave it. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." The crowd also saw the scene just now, but after hearing Yun Shuji's words, their faces did not show much joy. The reason was very simple. Their storage rings only had a few kilograms of salt at most, and some only had a few taels. After all, salt was only a seasoning. Who would bring a lot of salt with them for no reason? Yun Shujo seemed to have seen through their thoughts. She immediately threw more than 10 sacks of salt to Mukelu and the others and said in a heroic manner, "Don't worry. I have plenty here. As much as you want." Chapter 51:19 gave me an explanation. Everyone was surprised and happy. Naturally, they were happy that with the salt, they were not afraid of the blood-sucking carpet anymore. They were shocked that Yun Shujo brought so much salt for no reason. How would they know that this fellow cherished his life the most? To be on the safe side, he had even prepared hundreds of sacks for the sand, not to mention the salt. They didn't know if the blood-sucking carpet had heard Yun Shuji's words, but it didn't show itself again after diving into the water. They didn't think too much about it. Enchanting took out another swamp boat, and they continued to move forward as fast as they could. Seeing that the blood-sucking carpet didn't show itself again, Yun Shujo stingy put the sacks of salt back into her storage ring. What a joke. She had spent money to buy all this. Mukelu and the others were already used to her stingy behavior, so no one said anything. Instead, Chi Tianhui said with a strange tone, "Yun Shujo, since you knew that the blood-sucking carpet was afraid of salt, why didn't you say it earlier? Did you deliberately want to harm the people of our 3 families?" Yun Shuji's face suddenly darkened, and her eyes revealed some killing intent as she said coldly, "First, I also suddenly remembered that this blood-sucking carpet is somewhat similar to the leeches of the secular world, so I thought of using salt to restrain it. Second, if I wanted to harm the people of your 3 families, you would have already become corpses. Third, you have repeatedly provoked me with words. I was thinking of the big picture and didn't argue with you. I didn't expect you to become even worse. Senior Qi, if you do not give me a satisfactory explanation, we can only go our separate ways. Qi Anqing was so angry that he slapped Qi Tianhui twice. This idiot. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yun Shujiu had played an absolute role in their escape. If they were separated from her, would they still have a chance of survival? Qi Anchang's 2 slaps were merciless. Qi Tianhui's mouth instantly started to bleed. He shouted, "Grandfather, you actually helped that bitch beat me? I am your biological grandson." Qi Anqing saw that he was unrepentant and actually called Yun Shujiu a slut. He was so angry that he kicked him twice. Finally, he simply said to his subordinates, "Tie him up and gag his mouth so that he doesn't spout nonsense." Immediately, a guard tied Qi Tianhui up and stuffed a rag into his mouth. Only then did Qi Anqing say to Yun Shujiu, "Miss Yun, do you think this punishment is satisfactory?" Yun Shujiu snorted coldly. Up until now, he hasn't felt that he was wrong, and he hasn't apologized to me. However, I'm a kind-hearted person, so I won't argue with him. Qi Anqing was about to heave a sigh of relief when he heard Yun Shujiu say, "However, if we let him off just like this, what if others learn from him? How about this, you compensate me with 100 million upper-grade spirit stones for the mental damage, and this matter will be considered over. Otherwise, you guys go your own way, we'll go our own way, and we'll part ways here." Qi Anqing was so angry that he was twitching. 100 million upper-grade spirit stones? Why didn't you rob them? Previously, the 3 families had already given her 100 million upper-grade spirit stones as a thank you gift, and now they actually wanted to blackmail the Qi family? They were truly insatiable. Although Qi Anqing was extremely angry, he didn't dare to turn hostile. His heart turned a few times, and then he said, "Miss Yun, it's not that I don't agree. It's just that I came out in a hurry and didn't bring that many spiritual stones." Yun Shijia's eyes flashed. "Oh. How many spiritual stones do you have on you?" "Only 1 million left." Qi Anqing didn't even want to give this 1 million, but he was afraid that Yun Shujiu would break up, so he could only say with a pained expression. Chapter 51:20 A certain person who was in a bad mood. "Alright, 1 million then. Transfer it to me," Yun Shujiu said. Qi Anqing immediately transferred 1 million high-grade spirit stones to Yun Shujiu. He felt that this matter should be considered over. Who would have thought that Yun Shujiu would say, the remaining 99 million should be used as an IOU? Qi Anqing, even though he was unwilling, Qi Anqing still gritted his teeth and made an IOU. He hated her in his heart. After all, after leaving this 10,000-year-old swamp, this wretched girl would lose her life. This IOU was useless. After Qi Anqing gave the IOU to Yun Shujiu, he was so angry that he kicked Qi Tianhui twice. It was all because of this vile creature. Yun Shujiu was in a good mood after receiving another sum of money. She began to leisurely wash the hot pot. When the people of the Lan family saw what she used to wash the hot pot, they were all dumbfounded. "Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much. Isn't this an alchemy furnace?" Previously, she used this alchemy furnace to refine detoxification pills for them. Why did she use it to wash the hot pot now? Yun Shujiu ignored them and smilingly invited Elder Tuo and Lan Dimeo to eat together. The 2 of them were not as big-hearted as her, so they both refused. However, Lan Luofang came over and said, "Little Jiu, it's boring to eat alone. I'll eat with you." Yun Shujiu looked at her meaningfully. This guy was getting more and more shameless. Compared to Yun Shijia's good mood, the Gowei Batsao on the boat was very worried. She originally thought that Yun Shujiu would beg it to help, but in the end, the other party solved the problem with a basin of salt and completely ignored it. If it had known earlier, it would have volunteered. Perhaps it had already accumulated a lot of small coffers. What a miscalculation. Hurry up and bring another powerful demonic beast. This way, it could accumulate a small coffer. Hei Shinjo naturally did not know of this fellow's sinister thoughts. She was eating enthusiastically. After this fellow had eaten and drunk his fill, he laid down on the recliner in satisfaction. He felt too happy. In fact, sometimes happiness was that simple. After surviving a disaster, a hot pot would make people so happy that they wanted to cry. This guy was cooking chicken soup for the soul and his heart while taking an afternoon nap with his eyes closed. Before falling asleep, she felt as if she had forgotten something. However, sleepiness struck her, so she did not think about it carefully and fell asleep in a daze. A certain someone in his sleeve pocket was so angry that he gritted his teeth. This ugly girl did not care about his life anymore. She had forgotten to feed him again. He had not eaten 3 meals. In fact, in the past, when Yunshujo had forgotten to feed him, a certain someone would remind her. However, he was in a bad mood now and did not say anything in a fit of anger. Previously, when they met the 9-headed strange snake, Beiming reminded Yunshujo to kill all 9 heads at the same time. Yunshujo said, "Prince Charming, although you have lost your memory, you are still useful." At that time, a certain god felt a little unhappy. What did he mean by useful? Was he that useless in the ugly girl's heart? Yes, he admitted that he was indeed a little weaker now, but wasn't it because he was injured? Otherwise, why would he be so useless? Previously, when Buttface told him about the past, the ugly girl was very respectful and gentle to him. But now? She didn't take him seriously at all. If she didn't starve him, she would throw him into a wine jar. It was simply torture. Maybe she didn't like him anymore because he had become weak. That must be the case. The more he thought about it, the more difficult it became for a certain amnesiac snake. It also turned its grief and anger into motivation and began to cultivate without sleep or rest. He thought that when he recovered his strength, he would definitely make the ugly girl cry and kneel in front of him to repent. Chapter 5121 How busy are you? Yunshujo slept until sunset. She stretched and stood up. Elder Tua saw that she had woken up and said with a serious expression, "Little Joe, I'm afraid we're in big trouble." Yunshujo was stunned. Elder Tua had always been quiet and calm. What exactly happened? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Elder Tua, what's wrong? Elder Tua pointed at the water and said, I found that the water level is getting lower and lower. Elder Tua did not continue, but Yunshujo understood what he meant. There were 2 kinds of swamps in the Chongshao continent. One was a swamp, the top was fresh water, and the bottom was mud. The other was a swamp. It was all mud with only a few small puddles. Now that the water level was getting lower and lower, the depths of this 10,000-year-old swamp was most likely a swamp. There was very little water in the swamp, and it was simply not enough to support the swamp boat. Not to mention whether there were any powerful demon beasts inside. Even if there were no demon beasts, they would not be able to pass through. Mukelu and the others also noticed this, and everyone was frowning. Even though they were cultivators, the swamp was too terrifying, and there was simply no way to break through it. Yunshujo frowned and thought for a long time, but she couldn't think of any solution. She found an excuse and went to the back of the cabin. She asked the small silver snake in her sleeve quietly, Prince Charming, do you have any good ideas? A certain venerable who was cultivating hard snorted, I'm so weak now, how can I have any ideas? Yunshujo thought about the venerable's words and felt that something was wrong. Why did she feel a little sour? This guy blinked his eyes and then realized that he had not fed the little silver snake for quite a few meals. This guy suddenly felt a little guilty. Actually, it was not her fault. After encountering so many dangers, she did not have the time to feed him. Moreover, he was not a fool. Would he not remind her when he was hungry? He was really stupid. Yun Shujio immediately took out 2 meat buns and stuffed them into her sleeve pocket. She said with a smile, "My idol, I was so busy that I forgot to bring you food." "I'm sorry." A certain someone snorted coldly, "Yes, you're so busy. You're busy eating hot pot. You're busy sleeping." Upon hearing that, Hei Shinjo felt even more guilty. Yes, she had eaten hot pot with Lan Luofang previously, but she didn't think of feeding the pretty boy. No wonder he spoke so sourly. This guy had the principle of admitting his mistake and changing it. He said slyly, "My idol, I was wrong. I'll definitely change it in the future. Besides, I forgot. Why didn't you remind me?" A certain someone naturally wouldn't tell her what he was thinking. He snorted and didn't say anything. Hei Shinjo didn't know that a certain someone was angry not only because she forgot to feed him, but also because she felt that he had calmed down. So, she went back to the main topic. "Prince Charming, the swamp ahead is most likely a swamp. The swamp boat is definitely useless. How can we pass through it?" Although Di Biming was angry, he still knew the severity of the situation. He thought for a moment and said, "The swamp might not be a swamp. Maybe there is a hard ground. Let's see the specific situation first." Yun Shujo nodded. Since she could not think of any good ideas, she would just have to deal with it. After talking about the serious matter, Hei Shinjo was about to tease a certain lord when there was a commotion outside. Yun Shujo frowned and quickly walked to the deck. She quickly understood the reason for the commotion. Because the water level had dropped, the swamp ship could no longer move forward. Chapter 51-22 Swamp, it's over. We're really dead now. There's a swamp in front of us, we'll die if we go in. I'd rather wait here to be swallowed by the earth chi than go forward. After all, if the earth chi is swallowed, we'll die directly, and we'll suffer less. It's better to die than to stay alive. What if the swamp isn't that deep? Everyone was discussing among themselves, and their faces were filled with panic. At this moment, the sky had already darkened. After a discussion, everyone decided to stay where they were and make their plans after daybreak. At night, everyone heard the roars of beasts coming from the quagmire in front of them from time to time, and they felt that there was no way to survive. That night, no one slept well except Hei Shinjo. This guy's idea was very simple. Since he couldn't think of any good ideas, he might as well have a good sleep. When the sky was getting bright, Hei Shinjo was pulled up by Lan Dimeo. "Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much. Don't sleep. The Earth aura is getting closer and closer. What should we do?" Lan Dimeo shouted anxiously. He completely forgot that he was the leader. He did not know when it started, but Yun Shujo had become his backbone. Yun Shujo rubbed her eyes and looked into the distance. Last night, because the light was relatively dim, she could not see the situation in front of her clearly. Now that she looked at it, her heart was even colder. The swamp in front of her stretched as far as the eye could see. Other than some small hard ground, the rest were all swamps. There were some plants that were unique to the swamp growing in the swamp. They could also survive in the swamp. From afar, the swamp was decorated with colorful plants. Although it looked beautiful, it was full of killing intent. Once a person stepped on it, they would be swallowed by the mud. Occasionally, one could see some swamp demon beasts poking their heads out. Their eyes were filled with greed and desire as they looked at the crowd. It made people shudder. Yun Shujo frowned. If there were no beasts in the swamp, she could use some lighter wooden planks to barely pass through. However, there were beasts in the swamp. This plan would not work. Because those beasts could easily flip over the wooden planks. At that time, they could only become their food. When the crowd saw Yun Shuji's frown, they were even more uncertain. It was over. They were really dead now. As time passed, everyone became more and more anxious due to their panic. Someone tried to poke the swamp in front of them with a bamboo pole, wanting to see how deep it was. In the end, the conclusion was bottomless. This time, everyone became even more terrified. Yun Shujo knew that they could not delay any longer. She gritted her teeth and said, "Do you see it? The hard ground is about 2,000 feet away from us. We can throw some wooden boards down and use it as a support point to cross." Mukelu hesitated and said, "But if that's the case, we won't be able to turn back. If those demonic beasts besiege us, I'm afraid we'll be doomed." Yun Shujo nodded. "You're right. But now we have no other choice. If we delay any longer, we'll be swallowed by the earth chi." After hearing Yun Shuji's words, everyone split into two factions. One faction insisted on following Yun Shuji's instructions, while the other faction felt that it was better to stay where they were. The earth chi might not really come, and they might not even lose their lives. Everyone has their own aspirations and cannot be forced. If you want to follow me, then follow my instructions. Yun Shujo glanced at everyone and said. The Lan family naturally listened to Yun Shujo and immediately threw some large wooden planks onto the swamp. Chapter 51-23. Your little cutie is still here. Mukelu and the others were in a dilemma. Should they follow or not? Chi Tianhui had regained his freedom and immediately said, "Grandfather, don't listen to Yun Shujo. She is courting death. Even if we can successfully reach the hard ground in front, we will not be able to walk out of this swamp." Qi Ansheng ignored him and looked at Mukelu and Zhuang Ruhai. "What do you two think?" Zhuang Ruhai gritted his teeth. "We'll definitely die if we stay here. Why don't we give it a try? After all, that Yun Shujo is full of tricks. Who knows, she might come up with some other good ideas." Mukelu thought for a moment and said, "I agree with Brother Zhuang. Once the earth chi arrives, we'll definitely die. Since that's the case, we might as well follow that Yun Shujo." Qi Ansheng saw the two of them and nodded. "All right, then we will follow them." After the three of them discussed, they followed the Lan family's method and began to throw wooden planks into the swamp to act as support points. Qi Tianhui's eyes were red as he said, "Grandfather, don't be stupid. If you go, you will be throwing your life away. Anyway, I will not leave the swamp ship." Qi Ansheng looked at him deeply and then said to the crowd, "If you're willing to follow, then follow. If you're not, then stay." Mukelu and Zhuang Ruhai also said the same thing. Life and death were determined by fate, and it all depended on one's own luck. When the crowd was almost done tossing the wooden boards, Yun Shujo said, "Those demonic beasts have been eyeing us like tigers watching their prey. Therefore, we can't go blindly. We have to strategize. We have to move forward according to the difference in cultivation level. This way, once those demonic beasts attack, those with higher cultivation level can protect those with lower cultivation level. We have to set up a spiritual energy barrier throughout the entire journey to avoid being attacked. Also, don't follow closely, lest the wooden boards can't bear the weight." Yun Shujo looked at Elder Tua and said, "Elder Tua, your cultivation level is the highest. Would you be willing to be the first to go?" Yun Shujo handed him a lot of wooden boards after Elder Tua agreed. Because the wooden boards that were thrown by the others could not be thrown so far, he needed to throw some wooden boards as a supporting point as he moved forward. After the discussion was over, Elder Tua took the lead to jump down from the swamp boat. He tapped on a wooden board with the tip of his foot and his body instantly moved to another wooden board. After crossing two more planks, he threw the plank in his hand to the front as a support point, and then smoothly jumped onto the hard ground. "Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much." With Hunchback as a demonstration, everyone immediately jumped onto the hard ground in the order they had discussed. The swamp demon beasts did not come over to attack. Clearly, they were still in the wait-and-see stage. Moreover, they felt that it was not a bad thing to let everyone jump onto the hard ground. It would be more convenient for them to hunt. Qi Ansheng looked at Qi Tianhui again. "Tianhui, are you really going to stay here?" Qi Tianhui saw that everyone had successfully arrived at the hard ground. He also saw that the earth aura in the distance was getting closer and closer. He gritted his teeth and said, "Grandfather, I'll go with you." Qianqing nodded and let Qi Tianhui follow behind him. This way, he could also take care of him. Yun Shujiu watched coldly from the side. Not to mention anything else, this Qianqing was really good to Qi Tianhui. She wanted to take advantage of her grandfather. It had been a few years since she last saw him. She wondered if he was doing well. Qi Tianhui changed his mind, and the people who were supposed to stay hesitated. People always followed the crowd. In the end, they followed Yun Shujiu and the others to the hard ground. Before Yun Shujiu left, she did not forget to put away the swamp boat. The Gowei Batsao on the side of the boat was afraid of being exposed, so it jumped into the water. In the end, she could only watch as Yun Shujiu walked on the wooden board like a swallow. The messy Gowei Batsao in the water. "Hey! Did you forget something? Your little cutie is still here." Chapter 51-24. It was the little cutie Gowei Batsao was already numb to being abandoned, because it was now a nameless little treasury. This guy decided to rely on himself, so he swam towards the hard ground where everyone temporarily settled down. In fact, the word swim was not very accurate, because this guy complained that the mud was too dirty, so he used the grass leaves as small wings to glide from the colorful plants to the hard ground. The colorful swamp plants gave the Gowei Batsao a good cover. In addition, everyone's attention was not here, so the Gowei Batsao glided smoothly to the hard ground. In order not to be dumped again, this fellow spent a long time before carefully lying on He Xinjia's hair. Yun Shujiu naturally did not know about this. Her mind was now focused on how to cross the swamp. She knew that although the swamp demonic beasts did not attack just now, if they moved again, the demonic beasts would definitely take action. They did not need to expend too much effort. As long as they dragged people into the swamp, they would be able to enjoy it effortlessly. The others had also thought of this and turned their gazes towards Yun Shujiu. Yun Shujiu looked at the demon beasts that were eyeing the swamp. She thought to herself, why don't we capture a few demon beasts to play with? With them as guards, although they could not solve the problem completely, they could at least buy time. However, these demon beasts were not easy to capture. They had to think of a way. Lan Di Mao and the others saw that Yun Shujiu did not say anything, so they urged her anxiously, what should we do next? Should we stay here? Yun Shujiu blinked her eyes, no rush, I will feed the demonic beasts first, then we will go over. Everyone was angry and happy. Fed? The demonic beasts were the most greedy, and there were so many of them, how could she feed them? Yun Shujiu did not care about their reaction. She took out a piece of demonic beast meat and shouted at the swamp demonic beasts in the distance, hey, little cuties, Miss has meat here, come here quickly. The swamp demonic beasts were dumbfounded. This stupid girl, was she crazy? The leaves of the Gowei Batsao on Yun Shujia's hair shook. Bah! How could they be called little cuties? She was the real little cutie, alright? Yun Shujiu smacked her lips a few more times, then threw the demonic beast meat with all her might. The place where the demonic beast meat fell was still some distance away from the swamp demonic beasts. The swamp demonic beasts did not understand what Yun Shujia's intention was, so none of them made a move. Seeing this, Qi Tianhui snorted and said, save it. Those demonic beasts are not idiots. How could they eat the demonic beast meat you threw? Yun Shujiu glanced at him. Then how about I throw you down? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Qi Tianhui was angry and scared. He was about to refute, but he was frightened by Qi Ancheng's cold gaze and did not dare to say anything. Yun Shujiu did not continue to pay attention to this idiot Qi Tianhui. She took out another piece of demonic beast meat and said, you don't know, right? This is the meat of the nine-headed strange snake that looks like the nine neonate. Maybe it will increase your spiritual power greatly after eating it. Everyone was stunned. Previously, when they saw Yun Shujiu put away the nine-headed strange snake's corpse, They thought that she was selling it for money. They did not expect that it was not the case. When the swamp demonic beasts heard Yunchujia's words, some of them were tempted. After all, the 9-headed strange snake's level was much higher than theirs. If they could eat its meat, it would definitely benefit their cultivation. Chapter 51:25. Although the swamp demonic beasts were somewhat tempted, they were still somewhat on guard and didn't go forward. I say, what are you afraid of? Afraid that it'll poison you? TSK, isn't the nose of your demonic beasts very sensitive? If I poison you, you won't notice? Or is it that you're naturally timid and don't dare to come even half a step closer to us? Yunchujo curled her lips and said. Those swamp demon beasts roared angrily, as if they wanted to tear Yunchujo into pieces. What are you shouting for? What's so great about your loud voice? My goal is very simple. I want to feed you guys until you're full, so that you won't find trouble with us. Eat or not. As Yunchujo spoke, she threw out a few pieces of demon beast meat. One of the swamp bloodthirsty crocodiles couldn't resist the fragrance of the flesh and swam to a piece of demon beast meat with its courage. It sniffed the meat and swallowed it. Seeing that there was no abnormality, it immediately pounced on another piece of demonic beast meat nearby. Seeing that it was gobbling down the meat, the other swamp demonic beasts immediately let down their guard and started to fight for it. The battle between these demonic beasts caused the nearby swamp to splash up, and the roars were incessant. When everyone saw this scene, they guessed that Yunchujia's intention was to make them kill each other. However, they were probably daydreaming. Yunchujo ignored them and continued to throw the demonic beast meat forward. However, the closer she threw, the closer she got. The demonic beasts were all red-eyed from eating, so they wouldn't have noticed this. Besides, they didn't take Yunchujo and the others seriously at all. In this swamp, they were the masters. Yunchujo said to old Tuo and the others in a low voice, "I'll lure a few demonic beasts over later. You guys help me pull them up." Everyone was confused. What did she mean by, pull them up? However, they quickly understood what Yunchujo meant. That was because they saw that the few pieces of demonic beast meat that Yunchujo had just thrown out had transparent threads attached to them. Clearly, there was a hook hidden in the meat. Those swamp demonic beasts did not know that there was something fishy going on. They swallowed the demonic beast meat with a gulp before their jaws were hooked by the hook. Pull. Yunchujo narrowed her eyes. Did she think that it was easy to take advantage of Fairy Jo? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Everyone took the thread Yunchujo handed them and tried their best to pull the swamp beasts up. After the swamp beasts realized that they had been tricked, they tried to bite the thread off. However, the thread was very thin, and their teeth couldn't use any force. They were so angry that they wanted to use brute force to break the thread, but the thread was very strong and couldn't be broken in a short time. They let out a cry for help and wanted the other swamp beasts to help, but the swamp beasts wanted to have fewer competitors, so they wouldn't save them. Therefore, 5 unlucky fellows were dragged onto the hard ground. Yunchujo immediately restrained their spiritual power, then said with a smile, "Is the demon beast meat delicious? Since you ate my demon beast meat, you are my beasts." The 5 swamp beasts were half dead from anger. Did this stupid girl want to subdue them? They all had integrity. This stupid human trying to subdue them was simply wishful thinking. Yunchujo took out a large kitchen knife and waved it in front of them. There are 2 choices. One is that I chop you up and feed you to the other demon beasts, and the other is to establish a temporary contract with me. It's your choice. The 5 swamp demon beasts thought for a moment. Compared to their integrity, their lives seemed to be more important, so they cowered. Just as Yunchujo was feeling proud, someone exclaimed, "Oh my god! What is that? Is it the legendary mermaid clan?" Chapter 51:26 Yunchujo was shocked. She looked in the direction of the person's finger, but only saw a figure. The black fish tail glided quickly on the mud, but its upper body was covered by long black hair. No one could tell if it was a man or a woman. Everyone was in an uproar. Oh my God, it must be the legendary merman. I didn't expect there to be a merman in this 10,000-year-old swamp. Yes, it must be mermaids. Although we didn't see the front, the upper body is clearly in the shape of a human. That's not right. Didn't they say that mermaids live in the deep sea? Why would they appear in the 10,000-year-old swamp? Everyone discussed animatedly. They even temporarily put aside their current predicament. The main reason was that they were too shocked. Mermaids were legendary existences. Not to mention other things, their tears were water-repellent beads. Yun Shujo squinted her eyes and felt that something was wrong. However, she quickly retracted her gaze because the most important thing was to form a contract with the 5 swamp beasts first. Just as Yun Shujo was about to form a temporary contract with the 5 swamp beasts, a mournful song was heard in the swamp. It was more like a song than a song, because there were no lyrics, only an ethereal and mournful melody. Everyone felt their hearts tremble, and then some people shed tears. The beasts in the swamp immediately chased after the figure, and even the 5 beasts on the hard ground struggled to get over. Yun Shujo narrowed her eyes, took out a large copper basin, and started to hit it with a rolling pin. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. As she hit it, she sang, 2 tigers, 2 tigers. They run fast, they run fast. One has no eyes, and the other has no tail. Everyone shuddered and came back to their senses. They could not help but feel some lingering fear. It was rumored that the singing of mermaids could seduce people's souls. If Yun Shujo did not wake them up, they might have lost their lives. The swamp beasts were also awakened by Yun Shujia's singing. They fled in all directions in panic and disappeared into the swamp. The mermaids, in front of them, paused for a moment and then entered the swamp as well, as if nothing had happened. The crowd naturally discussed again. Yun Shujo ignored them and quickly established a temporary contract with the 5 swamp beasts. This fellow had always been a useless name maker and was too lazy to use his brain. He directly called them Big Fool, Second Fool, Third Fool, Fourth Fool, and Fifth Fool. The 5 newly made fools, how were they stupid? But that was also true. They had lost their freedom because of a few pieces of demon beast meat. They were indeed stupid enough. Yun Shujo glanced at them and said, "You guys dive into the mud now and see if there are any other demon beasts. If there aren't, we can move to the hard ground in front." Big Dummy said, "There's no need to look. There definitely aren't any other beasts. They were scared away by the messenger just now and don't dare to show themselves for a while." Yun Shujo narrowed her eyes. Messenger? Why do you call it a messenger? Is it really a merman? Because it's that man's subordinate, we call it a messenger. As for whether it's a merman or not, we're not sure because we've never seen its face before, Big Dummy explained. That person? Who is it? Yun Shujo asked in confusion. Silly and the others shivered. That is a very terrifying existence. As long as it wants to, none of us will survive. I advise you to not go in. You won't be able to get out of this 10,000-year-old swamp. Chapter 5127 Literary and Artistic Beasts. Yun Shujo felt that it would be difficult to get to the bottom of it with just a few words, so she might as well take advantage of the absence of the demonic beasts and hurry on her way. Thus, she had the 5 fools stay alert in the swamp and instructed everyone to move to the hard ground in front of them. Everyone did not know what Yun Shujo and the 5 fools had said, and Yun Shujo did not intend to tell them. If these people knew that there was a terrifying existence in there, they would definitely be cautious. Since that was the case, they might as well not tell them. Following the previous method, they used the wooden board as a support point and successfully moved to another piece of hard ground. In this way, they moved dozens of pieces of hard ground. Although there was a small mistake in the middle, there was no major mishap. However, they soon encountered a problem. The distance between the hard ground was getting larger and larger. It was impossible to jump over using the wooden plank as a support. Just as the group was frowning, Yunshuji's gaze fell on the 5 fools. The 5 fools suddenly had a bad premonition. If time could be reversed, they would definitely not eat the demonic beast meat. Unfortunately, it was already too late. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yunshujo had the 5 fools line up in the middle as a place for everyone to rest. This way, everyone could smoothly reach the hard ground. Although the 5 fools were extremely unhappy, they had no choice but to compromise. After everyone had moved to the hard ground, Yunshujo said to the 5 fools, as the saying goes, it's better to be happy alone than to be happy together. We can share happiness and difficulties together. You guys hook up with a few demonic beasts, and they'll also contract them. The 5 fools felt that it made sense. When they were in trouble, none of the demonic beasts came out to help, so there was no psychological pressure to frame them. The 2 fools smiled sinisterly and said, the sky will turn dark soon, and they will come out to look for food. When the time comes, we will help you lure a few. Yunshujo nodded and fed them some demon beast meat as a reward. Then, she asked about the previous matter again. Originally, everyone's strength in this swamp was about the same, so it could be considered peaceful. However, a few years ago, that person suddenly appeared and occupied the celestial pond in the middle of the swamp. Speaking of which, it was rather cowardly. Until now, we still didn't know what that person looked like. Because once we got close to the celestial pond, we would be muddle-headed. It was already good enough for us to keep our lives. How would we have the leisure to look at that person's appearance? Not to mention that person, we've only seen the back of his emissaries. Big Silly said somewhat gloomily. Second Silly added from the side, that's right. That person is really too mysterious. Fortunately, it has always been nestled in the celestial pond and didn't come out. It only occasionally sends emissaries to catch a few demonic beasts. Yunshujo pursed her lips. That thing really knew how to be mysterious. However, what was the celestial pond? Upon hearing Yunshuji's question, Silly explained, although our swamp is full of mud, there is a hot spring at the center of the swamp. Miraculously, a pool of water formed within a radius of a few thousand feet around the hot spring. The bottom of the pool is not mud but white sand. The hot spring was not only extremely clear, but it was also filled with spiritual energy. That was why it was called the Celestial Pool. Before that person came, we could all go in to soak in it. However, ever since it came, we could only think about it in our hearts. Sigh, the days of soaking in the hot spring and thinking about the birth of beasts are gone forever. Yunshujo found it funny in her heart. Each of these swamp beasts was uglier than the other, and each of them was a literary beast. Chapter 5128 was Pretentious Butt-Face, who was in the spirit beast bag, asked eagerly, Little fairy, what is an artistic beast? Yunshujo wanted to say that an artistic beast was like an artistic youth, but after thinking about it, Butt-Face didn't know what an artistic youth was, so he simply said, simply put, as demonic beasts, they actually have the time to think about beast life, so they are called artistic beasts. Butt-Face blinked his dog eyes. Oh, I know. They are just pretentious. Yunshujo ignored Butt-Face. Instead, she asked the 5 idiots to hook up with a few demonic beasts and get old Tua and the others ready for battle. Although they were not good at fighting in the swamp, there were still many of them. With the help of the 5 idiots, it was not a problem to catch a few unlucky ones. After a while, the 5 idiots hooked up with 3 demon beasts. The 5 idiots were actually very smart. The reason why they only hooked up with 3 was because even if Yunshujo and the others did not help, the 5 of them would not be at a disadvantage. Yunshujo successfully contracted these 3 demon beasts, and then let the 8 of them continue to harm the other demon beasts. Everyone looked at Yun Shujo with more and more surprise. Although these demon beasts were not particularly high in rank, it was already good enough for an average person's spiritual sense to contract 5 of them. She actually contracted 8 of them and still had the strength to continue the contract. Along with Silly and the others continuously luring the demonic beasts over, Yun Shujia's number of demonic beasts grew like a snowball. Moreover, as the number of Silly and the others increased, there was no need to waste effort in coaxing them. They might as well use force. If they didn't follow them over, they would directly bite them to death. In any case, they wouldn't feel guilty at all if they outnumbered them. Very quickly, all the demonic beasts within a radius of several hundred li were scared away. Those that didn't escape became He Xinjia's subordinates. Everyone was already scared out of their wits. Especially Qi Tianhui. He did not dare to provoke her again. What a joke. If this fiend was not satisfied, he could take his life at any time. Mu Kelu and the rest were also scared out of their wits. They became more and more fearful of Yun Shujo, but they did not dare to have any bad thoughts for the time being. Yun Shujo was in a good mood. She already had dozens of swamp demonic beasts. Tomorrow, she could let these swamp demonic beasts use large wooden boards to transport everyone between hard ground. The speed would be much faster. However, she always felt that the thing in the celestial pond and the so-called messengers were a bit strange. She didn't believe that they were mermaids. Because the big brother of the mermaids had clearly told her that he was the only one left of the mermaids. The rest were already dead. How could mermaids appear out of nowhere? Then, what exactly were they? Yun Shujo had no idea at the moment. She could only find a spot and lie down to rest. The swamp was protected by the swamp beasts. There were people on duty on the hard ground, so she slept exceptionally soundly. The next morning, everyone set off again. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yun Shujo let the swamp beasts drag the wooden boards and moved everyone to the other hard ground. At the beginning, everyone was still a little scared, afraid that the beasts would throw them into the swamp if they were not careful. However, fortunately, the beasts were still reliable. Although they would sometimes make them fall, they did not really fall. Yun Shujo naturally could not let the swamp beasts work for free. Therefore, not only did she feed them the beast meat, she also gave them some pills. Of course, this fellow turned around and exploited a lot of good things from the other 3 families. What a joke. She wasn't stupid, how could she suffer such a loss? Chapter 51-29. Quickly used the Sanskrit mantra to kill. Just as things were progressing smoothly, an ethereal song sounded. The eyes of the swamp demon beasts instantly became lost. The people on the wooden board were also somewhat stunned. Seeing this, Yun Shujo thought, this is bad. She hurriedly took out a copper basin and began to knock. Wake up. Everyone wake up. Although Yun Shujo intervened in time, there was still a wooden board that fell. The few people standing on it fell into the swamp. They were Lan Luofang and the others. Yun Shujia's expression changed. She ordered the demonic beasts to pull Lan Luofang and the others out and then dragged them to the hard ground. Yun Shujo quickly used water to wash away the mud on their bodies. Fortunately, they used their spiritual power to protect their noses and mouths. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Seeing that they were safe and sound, Yun Shujo heaved a sigh of relief and looked up into the distance. Just like what she saw yesterday, there was still a mermaid-like figure singing non-stop. Yun Shujo shouted coldly, "Shut up. You still have the nerve to come out after singing so badly? Get as far away as you can. If you come out again, I'll kill you." The mermaid was obviously shocked by Yun Shujia's words. The tune that it was humming suddenly went out of tune, and then it sneaked into the swamp. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yun Shujo thought that the mermaid might come out to cause trouble. Therefore, she asked everyone to take out something that could make a sound. Once the mermaid came out again, she would use the sound to disturb it. As expected, when everyone moved again, the mermaid appeared again. However, everyone was already prepared. They all showed their abilities. Some were playing the zither, some were playing the flute, and some were hitting pots and pans. The mermaid could only dive back into the swamp in anger. Silly and the others sighed in their hearts. Humans were indeed smarter than them. Why didn't they think of this trick in the first place? No wonder the stinky girl gave them such a name. However, whether it was Yunchujo or the demon beasts in the swamp, they clearly thought the matter was too simple. When they thought that the mermaid would not appear for the time being, 5 mermaids actually appeared in the distance. They chanted at the same time. The sounds made by the crowd did not work. Instead, they quickly fell into a daze. Among the crowd, only Old Tuo and Yunchujo remained awake. Old Tuo was able to remain awake for the time being due to his high cultivation level. Yunchujo, this pervert, had a black bead in her body. Naturally, she was not afraid of these things. At this moment, the eyes of the demonic beasts were dull. They wanted to swim in the direction of the mermaids. Therefore, the wooden boards they were supporting capsized one after another, and everyone fell into the swamp. What was worse was that everyone's expression was dull. They did not even put up their spiritual energy shields. If they were to delay any longer, none of them would survive. As the wooden boards that Old Tuo and Yunchujo were on were at the front, the moment the wooden boards capsized, the tips of their toes leaped onto the hard ground in front of them. Elder Tuo shouted, "Sanskrit! Quick! Sanskrit!" Yunchujo thought that she didn't know how to use Sanskrit, but she couldn't care less about that now. She immediately took out a piece of jade Bodhi leaf and started to play it. The magical thing was that the moment Yunchuji's music started, the demonic beasts and everyone regained their clarity. Yunchujo had told everyone before that if they were unlucky enough to fall into the swamp, they shouldn't struggle recklessly. They should try their best to keep their bodies level and slow down the speed of the fall. Therefore, when everyone regained their consciousness, they did not struggle in a panic. Instead, they followed Yunchuji's instructions and waited for rescue. Chapter 51:30. Without Yunchuji's order, those demonic beasts quickly dragged everyone to the hard ground. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Seeing that the 5 mermaids had already dived into the swamp, Yunchujo also stopped playing. This guy was puzzled. She didn't seem to have used any Sanskrit sound just now. She just randomly blew a few times, and it actually worked. Perhaps it was because one thing could subdue another. After all, the glazed Bodhi leaf was a Zen item, and it had a restraining effect on some evil things. After everyone was dragged to the hard ground, they slowed down for a while. After counting the number of people, dozens of people still died. Although it was very regrettable, it couldn't be helped. Lan Luofeng glanced around and found that there were no members of the Lan family among the dead. Her heart moved, and she guessed that Little Nine must have told those demonic beasts to save the members of the Lan family first. Lan Luofeng's guess was right. Yunchujo was not a good person, so she naturally put the Lan family members first. As for the other 3 families, well, it was up to fate. After such a struggle, it was already evening. However, the group did not rest and continued to move forward. The reason was very simple. The earth chi was spreading faster. Yunchujo felt that the earth chi was forcing them to get close to the so-called celestial pond as soon as possible. What secret was hidden there? In the next 2 days, Yunchujo and the others traveled day and night. During this process, they subdued some demonic beasts, which made their speed increase quite a bit. The mermaids seemed to have disappeared and didn't appear again. However, everyone knew that there was probably a bigger crisis waiting for them. Even if they knew this, they could only continue forward because they had no way out. That night, Yunchujo judged the progress of the earth energy spread and decided to let everyone rest for the night. After all, the demon beasts couldn't bear to travel through the night. Yun Shujo took out the demon beast meat and pills and fed them to the demon beasts in the swamp. She also praised them a few times in order to boost their morale. The Goei Batsao on Yun Shujia's head shook its leaves. This wretched girl was used to buying people's hearts. No, the heart of the beast. This fellow had been very obedient these few days. It was not that it had learned its lesson, but that it did not dare to show off because there was not much left in its small treasury. Its current color was already very light. It was very anxious in its heart. If the wretched girl still did not let it out, it was afraid that it could only disappear. This fellow cursed in its heart. These swamp demon beasts were each more stupid than the last. Why didn't any of the more powerful ones come over to cause trouble? If there was someone who wanted to cause trouble, could it be released? However, it was probably useless even if there was someone who wanted to cause trouble. The stinky girl had already subdued more than 100 demon beasts. If one came, one would die. How could he let the stinky girl let him out for a stroll? Thus, the Guai Chao in his dantian began to act cutely. Yun Shujo thought that it wanted to eat the pills, so she secretly swallowed 2 bottles of pills behind everyone's back. Unexpectedly, Guai Chao was still acting cuter than before. Yun Shujo frowned and cursed with her spiritual sense. 2 bottles aren't enough? Are you a pig? Yun Shujo ignored Guai Chao after cursing. Goei Batsao held its breath. It was such an amazing existence, but it actually suffered all kinds of grievances because it couldn't speak. How could it be reasonable? After Yun Shujo finished scolding Guai Chao, she began to chew on the meat bun. This time, she didn't forget a certain someone. She stuffed a meat bun into her sleeve. A certain someone who was diligently cultivating snorted. This ugly girl still had some conscience. The snort of a certain someone wasn't loud, but Yun Shujo still heard it. She pursed her lips. This tsundere. Chapter 5131, What's Going On? After dinner, Yun Shujo told the little silver snake about some of her guesses and thoughts in a low voice and said, Prince Charming, do you think the person in the celestial pond is Brother Mermaid? Although I don't think it's possible, I haven't seen him for a long time. I don't know how he is now. Yun Shujo had mentioned the matter of the mermaid brother to a certain someone when she was talking about Lan Luochen. Hence, the amnesiac snake did not have a good impression of the so-called mermaid brother at all. Since it was a fish, it had to have the self-awareness of a fish and just stay there. Why would it always appear in front of the ugly girl? The ugly girl even said that the fish was so beautiful. It was really ridiculous. How good could a fish be? Could it be that the fish scales were brighter than other fish? Yun Shujo saw that a certain someone didn't say anything, so she could only repeat, Prince Charming, do you think the one in the celestial pond is Big Brother Mermaid? What are those envoys? A certain someone said unhappily, I don't know how to calculate, who knows what that thing is? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. However, I'm warning you, I've already noticed that this 10,000-year-old swamp is full of dangers. Don't let your greed for beauty get in the way of proper business. Yun Shujo, without waiting for Yun Shujo to speak, a certain lord continued, although the voices of those emissaries sounded ethereal, they were mixed with some evil energy. It's absolutely impossible for them to be the voices of mermaids. Moreover, the mermaids love cleanliness the most. It's impossible for them to survive in this swamp. Yun Shujo nodded. She thought so too. Those emissaries were definitely not mermaids. She just didn't know if the one in the celestial pond was the big brother of the mermaids. Since the disappearance of the big brother mermaid, although she had seen him a few times, it was only his spiritual sense. She had never seen his real body. His real body must have been trapped somewhere. Logically speaking, it would not appear here. Just as Yun Shujo was thinking, a certain someone hesitated and asked, Is that mermaid really very good looking? Yun Shujo recalled the mermaid's beautiful face and immediately nodded, Yes, let me tell you, I have never seen such a good-looking man. The body of a certain amnesiac snake instantly stiffened and then snorted coldly. Since that mermaid looks very similar to Lan Luochen, then it means that it looks just like that. Your taste is really not that good. Although they look very similar, the eyes of the mermaid brother are blue, and the temperament is different. Although the mermaid brother is sad, he doesn't have Lan Luchen's stubbornness. He doesn't touch the secular world at all. He's ethereal like a legendary figure. Every time Yun Shujiao said something, the silver snake's body stiffened. It felt like its heart was about to explode. Wasn't it just a broken fish? What did she mean by not being tainted by the secular world? What did she mean by being ethereal? She was simply spouting nonsense. While Yun Shujiao was still spouting nonsense, a certain venerable snorted coldly. Enough. This venerable one still needs to cultivate. I don't have time to listen to your nonsense here. Yun Shujiao rolled her eyes. He was the one who wanted to ask, and now he was complaining about her insolence. What a lunatic. Yun Shujiao was about to turn around and leave when a certain someone said coldly, "You don't have to worry too much. If the situation is urgent, I will protect you." Yun Shujiao curled the corners of her lips. Use your pot. A certain someone, he shouldn't have been soft-hearted. This ugly girl deserved to be taught a lesson. Chapter 51-32. Although Yun Shujiao said that, her heart felt warm. However, she knew that Di Biming said that he would protect her, so he would definitely pay a huge price. He might even lose his life. She would never allow that to happen. Prince Charming, you have to believe in me as I believe in you. I can do it, but you must not take the risk. Di Biming wanted to say something, but he did not know what to say. Thus, the man and the snake did not speak again. Although it was quiet, Di Biming's heart rippled. This strange yet familiar feeling made his heart soften. After a long silence, Yun Shujiao suddenly thought of Qi Ying, who had not moved for a long time. It was better to ask him. Perhaps he could find out what those mermaids were. Therefore, Yun Shujiao used her spiritual sense to scan the spirit beast bag. She saw Qi Ying hiding in a corner, looking as if he could not afford to live. His eyes were dull, like a stupid rabbit. Yun Shujiao touched her nose. Qi Ying seemed a little miserable. However, she had no choice. This guy was a hardcore fan of the Divine Devil Hall Master. If she did not do this, she might be harmed by him. Yun Shujiao sent a message to the Red Shadow Rabbit through Butt Face. Qi Ying, do you know of a demonic beast that looks like a mermaid? The Red Shadow Rabbit didn't move, but its eyes moved slightly. It said coldly, I don't know. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Then do you know of a hot spring in the depths of the 10,000-year-old swamp? I don't know. Sigh, but that's true. Your status in the Divine Devil Hall isn't that high, and you're being ostracized. Naturally, your knowledge is limited. This so-called purple mask of yours is just a decoration. In reality, you don't know anything at all. Qi Ying's rabbit eyes revealed some anger, but he didn't say anything. Yun Shujiao curled her lips. This Qi Ying had learned from his mistakes, and he was becoming more and more difficult to deal with. Yun Shujiao sneered and said, Qi Ying, I won't beat around the bush with you. Anyway, if I die, you won't be able to live either. It's up to you. Qi Ying also sneered and said, it's better to die than to look like this. Whatever. Yun Shujiao rolled her eyes and said, is that so? Your body has already been destroyed. Perhaps you have been slandered as a traitor of the Divine Devil Hall. TSK, even if you die, you have to die with the name of a traitor. How disappointed your lord must be. Also, your bullshit master definitely doesn't know about the matters in the demon region. Don't you want to go back and inform the others? Qi Ying was moved by Yun Shujia's words. He said coldly, there's a type of demon beast called General. It has a fish tail and long hair on its head and back. From its back, it looks very similar to a mermaid. Chapter 5133 The Celestial Pond. Fortunately, there was a hard ground near the celestial pond. They could rest on the hard ground for the time being and then make plans for the next step. When it was almost noon, everyone arrived at the hard ground closest to the celestial pond. The celestial pond not far away was quiet. Other than feeling the rich spiritual energy, it didn't seem to be any different from the ordinary pond water. However, Big Silly and the others kept quiet out of fear. None of them dared to go there rashly. Everyone wanted to go around it, but the 10,000-year-old swamp suddenly became narrower when they reached the celestial pond. If they wanted to go there, they had to go through the celestial pond. Yun Shujo took out a stone and threw it at the celestial pond. With a splash, the stone fell into the celestial pond. Other than stirring up a splash, there was no other movement. Everyone looked at each other. Where were the mermaids? Yun Shujo threw a few more stones into the pond, but there was still no reaction. Then the question was, should they go over? Yun Shujo looked at Silly and the others. Do you guys want to go in and take a bath? And then think about beast life inside? Silly and the others immediately retreated. What a joke. They had not lived long enough. Even if they were not smart enough, they knew that the celestial pond must have set up a trap and was waiting for them to fall into it. Yun Shujo was only trying to scare Silly and the others. She did not really intend to let them pass. She curled the corners of her lips and smiled in the direction of the celestial pond. We just want to make a path for us. If you let us pass, we will definitely reward you handsomely. The surface of the water was calm and there was no reaction. Yun Shujo said a lot of polite words, but there was still no reaction. Yun Shujo snorted coldly, is it interesting to hide a cat? If you still don't come out, I can only poison this pond. However, there was still no movement. Oh. It seems that you are not afraid of poison. Then I will turn this pond into a spicy hot pot. Yun Shujo took out a sack of spicy noodles and threw it at the celestial pond. Damn it, the spicy hot pot won't kill you. The sack was about to fall into the celestial pond, but it was knocked off course by a fishtail and landed on the hard ground opposite. However, after the sack landed on the ground, the spicy noodles still flew out, and some landed on the water surface of the celestial pond. The celestial pond suddenly splashed, and at the same time, a song was heard. Everyone's and the demon beast's eyes immediately became blurred. Yun Shujo was already prepared. She immediately took out a piece of jade glass Bodhi leaf and started to play. The sound of the jade glass Bodhi leaf was like a stream of clear water, immediately waking everyone and the demon beasts up. They all stared at the celestial pond with their eyes wide open. There were 5 mermaids floating in the celestial pond. However, at this moment, everyone no longer thought that they were mermaids. Although their lower body was a fish tail, their upper body was not human at all. Instead, it was similar to the upper body of a pig. However, due to the long hair on their backs, they looked very similar to mermaids from afar. The 5 mermaids stared at Yun Shujo with eyes full of hatred and stopped singing. Yun Shujo put away the jade glass Bodhi leaf and chuckled, why? Do you hate me? TSK, I just enjoy the look of you who can't get rid of me even though you don't like me. You even learned to sing like mermaids with your ugly looks? You guys are really shameless. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. The 5 mermaids were obviously very angry. They kept hitting the water with their tails. Yun Shujo knew that they were summoning their leader. She wanted to see what it was. Chapter 5134 I am undone. At this moment, the water splashed and something came out of the celestial pond. However, everyone was stunned when they saw what came out. What the hell was this? The thing that came out of the water looked like a huge bear. The fur on its body was very long. Although it had 4 legs, it did not have claws. It looked very strange. What was even more surprising was that its 2 bell-sized eyes had no eyeballs and its ears were drooping. At this moment, Zhuang Ruhai suddenly cried out in a low voice, "Hun Dun. This is the ancient ferocious beast Hun Dun. There are records in ancient books that it looks like a bear. It has long fur covering its body and 4 legs without claws. It cannot see and cannot hear. This is simply the same." When everyone heard this, their faces revealed a look of horror. Heavens, it was one of the 4 great ancient ferocious beasts. This was 10,000 times more terrifying than the 9 neonate that they had heard of previously. They would not be able to survive. Yun Shujiu narrowed her eyes. "Hun Dun?" She used her spiritual sense to ask Buttface, who was in the spirit beast bag, "Is that thing in front Hun Dun?" "It should be that idiot, but its strength doesn't seem to be much." "Little fairy, you don't have to be afraid of it at all," Buttface said disdainfully. Yun Shujiu rolled her eyes when she heard Buttface's words. "What is Hun Dun's weakness?" Buttface immediately laughed sinisterly. "Hun Dun is the most brainless fellow. Moreover, its temper is that people tend to resist virtue, while people tend to rely on vicious virtue." Yun Shujiu glared at it. "Speak human language." "Aya, just like me, it doesn't like good people. It likes evil people like you, little fairy," Buttface said eagerly. "To put it bluntly, it's just cheap," Yun Shujiu said with a smile. "Buttface, there was no way to have a friendly chat." At this moment, Hun Dun opened his mouth to speak. His hoarse voice was like a saw cutting through wood. "I am Hun Dun. Please leave quickly, or you will die." After Hun Dun finished speaking, a huge pressure spread out. Everyone was frightened by the pressure it emitted. Those swamp demon beasts were so scared that they even sneaked into the swamp, afraid that they would lose their lives. At this moment, Yun Shujiu laughed lightly. "Are you really Hun Dun? Why do I look like a fake? Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much." Everyone thought that this Yun Shujiu was too bold. This was definitely Hun Dun. It had already admitted it, how could it be fake? Moreover, this huge pressure was not something that ordinary demonic beasts could have. Hun Dun, who was in the pond, snorted angrily. "Of course I am Hun Dun, the little human actually suspects me, he is really courting death. Didn't you say that Hun Dun is not only blind but also deaf? Then why can you see us and hear us? You are definitely an imposter." Hun Dun snorted in disdain. "Although I can't see or hear, I have a lot of supernatural powers, so I can naturally do it." "So that's how it is. So you are really Hun Dun? But why did Xiong Qi and Tao Wu say that Hun Dun was already dead?" "Bullshit. They are bullshit. I am alive and well, they are the ones who are dead. You are courting death." Hun Dun cursed. Yun Shujiu pouted. "Why aren't you being arrogant? A fierce beast actually wants to pretend to be a cultural beast. Shameless. Don't think that you can fool them with your little show. If you really have the ability, you wouldn't be cooped up here. I have heard that among the 4 great fierce beasts, you are the most stupid. You don't have a brain at all. You actually want to threaten me?" Chapter 51-35 Combs. Hun Dun was obviously very angry. The long hair on his body stood up. "Smelly girl, you're courting death." "Yes, I'm here to seek death." "Come and kill me," Yun Shujiu said indifferently. Everyone thought that Yun Shujiu was most likely crazy. This was the ancient fierce beast Hun Dun. What else could she be if she wasn't courting death by provoking him? However, that Hun Dun didn't do anything. Instead, it changed its face and said, "Little girl, I find you very interesting. How about this, I'll let you go over, but everyone else must stay behind to be my food. What do you think?" When everyone heard this, they were both dumbfounded and terrified. What they were dumbfounded about was naturally that there was something wrong with this Han Dun's head, right? Yun Shujo scolded it so much, yet it actually thought that she was interesting. What was frightening was that if Yun Shujo agreed to Han Dun's words, wouldn't they die here? Right at this moment, Yun Shujo laughed lightly and said, "All right. If one doesn't do it for oneself, the heavens will punish the earth. As long as I can live, it's fine. Whether others die or not has nothing to do with me." Han Dun immediately laughed out loud. His hoarse voice was exceptionally terrifying. "Good. Very good. I like your personality. If that's the case, you can go. Don't worry, I will not sneak attack you." Yun Shujo waved her hands behind her back and jumped into the celestial pond. The crowd did not know what she meant, so they did not move and just stared at her. When Han Dun saw Yun Shujo jump into the celestial pond, a faint light flashed in his empty eyes. All the long hair on his body suddenly wrapped around Yun Shujo. Yun Shujo did not resist. She allowed Han Dun to use the long hair to drag her into the water. The surface of the water instantly regained its calm. Even the 5 mermaids had disappeared without a trace. "Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much." Everyone was in chaos. What should they do? Elder Tua thought of the gesture that Yun Shujo had made earlier and said to everyone, "Little Jiao has always been smart. Since she did this, she must have her own thoughts. We can just wait here." At this moment, everyone had no backbone. After hearing what Elder Tua said, they could only wait on the spot. They couldn't do anything even if they didn't wait on the spot. Because Yun Shujo wasn't here, those swamp beasts wouldn't listen to them at all. On the other side, Yun Shujo was dragged into the water. A white light flashed, and when she regained her sight, she was already in a cave. Yun Shujo curled her lips. Han Dun was a little miserable too. For example, the White Tiger had an underground palace. However, this guy only had a broken cave. However, Tao Wu and Xiong Qi were also miserable. They became other people's soul beasts. Yun Shujo came back to her senses and touched Han Dun's long hair. It was smooth and felt good. "You pervert. You actually took advantage of me. You're really courting death." Han Dun shouted in exasperation. Yun Shujo was speechless. Where did this guy get the courage to say such words? Take advantage of him? She was not blind to fall for a long-haired monster. While Yun Shujo was cursing in her heart, she was already dragged into the depths of the cave by Han Dun. The 5 mermaids followed closely behind. There were many demon beast bones in the cave. However, Yun Shujia's gaze suddenly shrunk. Those were combs. There were many combs that were polished with beast bones on the ground. Although the workmanship was very rough, the number was definitely considerable. With a rough look, there were probably 400 to 500 combs. Yun Shujo thought to herself, were these combs used by the mermaids, or Han Dun? Chapter 51:36 Braiding hair. Just as Yun Shujo was sizing up the combs, Han Dun released Yun Shujo and said arrogantly, "Originally, I wanted to eat you, but I saw that you were very envious of my long hair, so I decided to let you live. You stay and comb my long hair." Yun Shujo, she had never dreamed of such a scene. Was this Han Dun an ancient fierce beast? He must be an idiot. Yun Shujo blinked her eyes and said, "All right, then I'll stay. Why don't I comb you now?" Han Dun's big head nodded. "Very good, you little weakling, you know your place." Yun Shujo did not show it on the surface, but she gritted her teeth in her heart. "Very good, I'll deal with you later. Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much." Yun Shujo picked up a big comb from the ground and began to comb Han Dun's long hair. It was estimated that this fellow combed it many times every day, so the long hair was very smooth. It did not take much effort to comb it. Han Dun let out a comfortable snort and said, "You little weakling are much more agile than those 5 idiots. They often break my long hair." As Han Dun said, he pointed to a corner of the cave with one leg and said, "See? That is the tomb where I broke my hair. Those 5 idiots have to kowtow to my long hair every day." Yun Shujiao looked in the direction that Han Dun was pointing at. As expected, there were a few stones piled up in a corner. She could vaguely see some hair behind the stones. Yun Shujia's heart was like a beeping dog. This Han Dun was simply a psychopath. However, there was one thing that she could see. This Han Dun was extremely concerned about its long hair. Since that was the case, she would let it learn a lesson. Han Dun cursed a few more times. The 5 mermaids were lying on the ground silently. It was obvious that they were used to being scolded. Yun Shujiao rolled her eyes. "Han Dun, not only do I know how to comb my hair, I also know how to braid it. I know all kinds of braids. Why don't I try to braid it for you?" Han Dun said in surprise, "Really? I have never braided before." "Then, try to braid it for me. If you do it well, I will reward you heavily." Yun Shujiao nodded and immediately began braiding little braids for Han Dun. Of course, this guy was not that kind. Braiding little braids? What a joke. This guy had tied Han Dun's long hair into countless knots. He looked like a poodle with curly hair. Han Dun was not aware of it at all. He was waiting for a wonderful show in a while. When the 5 mermaids saw it, they anxiously cried out. Han Dun shouted impatiently, "All of you shut the fuck up. I know that you are all jealous of this little weakling being pampered, but who asked her to be smarter than you? If you continue to quarrel, I will eat you." The 5 mermaids looked at each other and did not say anything. They just tacitly retreated far away because they knew that the fiend would definitely fly into a rage in a while. After a while, Yun Shujiao clapped her hands. "All right, it's done. You can take a look now." Han Dun stood up happily and took out a huge crystal mirror from somewhere. He looked at himself in the mirror with longing. Then, he was dumbfounded. Han Dun looked at himself in the mirror in disbelief. His smooth long hair was tied into ugly knots. Many of them were knots in the middle. Was that ugly thing in the mirror himself? Chapter 5137. Was she really that outstanding? Han Dun raised a front claw, and the thing in the mirror also raised its front claw. Han Dun shook his head again, and the thing in the mirror also shook its head. "Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." "Ah. Ah. Ah." Han Dun let out a shrill scream. If people did not know, they would have thought that he was suffering some inhuman abuse. "Stupid girl. Little weakling. Ugly freak. I'm going to kill you. Give me back my long hair. Give me back my long hair." Han Dun roared like he had gone mad. He stretched out his long hair and tried to entangle Yun Shujiao. Unfortunately, his long hair was tied into a knot by Yun Shujiao. He did not do anything to Yun Shujiao, but he tripped Han Dun himself. Han Dun was going crazy with anger. "Little weakling, if it wasn't for my soul power being used to create a physical form, I would have smashed you into meat paste." Yun Shujiao watched from the side and thought to herself, what Butt-Face said was right. This Han Dun's brain was indeed not that good. Otherwise, why would he reveal his trump card? Han Dun roared for a long while before saying, "Forget it, I won't stoop to your level. Untie my long hair knot and I will not only let you leave, but those people can also leave with you." Yun Shujiao laughed. "Han Dun, do you think you have the right to negotiate with me? You only have one choice now, and that is to acknowledge me as your master, or I will kill you." Han Dun was so angry that he wanted to pounce on Yun Shujiao, but he fell down again. He roared angrily, "You want to kill me? What a joke, I am an ancient beast. Although I don't have much strength left, you little weakling actually dare to say such harsh words to me? You are tired of living. Yun Shujo looked at Han Dun and shook her head. She thought to herself, how did such an idiot become an ancient ferocious beast? But Face, who was in the spirit beast bag, said eagerly, little fairy, you don't know. Although this Han Dun is very stupid, its life is hard. It has the aura of Han Dun in its body, so its body has a very strong recovery ability. Even if it is seriously injured, it will recover very quickly. Yun Shujo nodded. So that was the case. She had said it before, otherwise, such an idiot would die 8 times a day. Han Dun, since you acknowledge me as your master, I will help you untie all the knots on your long hair. Otherwise, your soft and long hair will only become a memory. Yun Shujo said. Don't even think about it. I will not give in. I still have them. They will help me untie all these knots. Han Dun pointed at the 5 mermaids and said. Yun Shujo looked at the 5 mermaids' short and fat claws and said with a smile, are you sure they can untie them? Han Dun thought of the stupid looks of the 5 mermaids, and immediately felt uncertain. Yun Shujo took out Butt Face and said, Butt Face, tell it. Han Dun was stunned at first, then he looked at Butt Face carefully and laughed out loud, I'm dying of laughter. I can't take it anymore, I'm dying of laughter. You actually turned into this ghastly appearance? And you're still called Butt Face? Huh, how embarrassing. Butt Face was not angry. He waited until Han Dun had laughed enough before he said, I know you're jealous that I have a good name like Butt Face. I won't argue with you. For the sake of old acquaintances, let me give you a piece of advice. The little fairy is the worst, most perverted, and most shameless person I've ever met. If you miss such a master, you'll regret it. Han Dun asked suspiciously, is she really that outstanding? Yun Shujo, was it because she was inexperienced, or were these 2 idiots crazy? Chapter 5138, The Past of Han Dun. Dog 2 nodded with certainty. Of course. The little fairy is full of bad ideas. Didn't you see it just now? If she was a good person, would she have thought of such a bad idea? Han Dun nodded. What you said makes sense. She is indeed very bad and excellent. Dog 2 said proudly, of course. A little fairy with a name like Dog 2 is naturally not an ordinary person. Oh right, you weren't so perverted before? Why do you care so much about your long hair now? Han Dun gnashed his teeth and said, don't mention it. 10,000 years ago, I was free and unfettered. I simply ran amok. However, I once offended a smelly girl, and then I was out of luck. That smelly girl didn't kill me, but shamelessly shaved off all my long hair. Brother Cheong Chi, you don't know. Without long hair, what's the difference between this and a human sprinting? Moreover, most of my abilities were on long hair. Without long hair, I lived a miserable life. From then on, I swore that I would treat my long hair well. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Furthermore, don't you think that my long hair is very beautiful? It makes my face look like a crown of jade, handsome and elegant. Hearing Han Dun's words, Butt Face was so disgusted that he almost vomited. All right, stop talking. Are you trying to disgust me to death? Oh right, who is that stinky girl you mentioned? How could she harm you to such an extent? For some reason, when Yun Shujo heard Butt Face's words, she felt a little guilty. This fellow consoled himself that it was probably not her doing. After all, if it was her doing, Han Dun would have recognized her long ago. Han Dun said unhappily, that damn stinky girl was wearing a mask at that time, so I didn't see her face at all. Yun Shujo heaved a sigh of relief inexplicably. However, when she heard Han Dun's next sentence, her heart was in her throat again. That damned brat originally wanted to draw a few little bastards on me. Fortunately, many monks caught up with her and said that she stole some bell or some wooden fish. When she realized her conscience, she released me, Hun Dun said while gnashing his teeth. But Face's dog eyes instantly widened and he looked at Yun Shujo who was beside him. Yun Shujo staggered and then glared at Butt Face fiercely. Butt Face used his divine sense to flatter her, "Little fairy, don't worry. I won't betray you. Besides, this Hun Dun's brain isn't working well. He won't notice it for a while." Yun Shujo finally felt relieved. She thought to herself that she had been a devil in her previous life. She was so miserable in this life. Was it because she had done too many wicked things in her previous life that she was punished? Hei Shinjo calmed herself down and said to Butt Face, "Hurry up and convince him to establish a contract with me. Otherwise, more bad things will happen." Butt Face immediately said to Hun Dun, "Brother Hun Dun, let's not talk about those sad things. You can't always hold it in here, can you? Why don't you acknowledge the little fairy as your master? At least you can untie the knot on your long hair." Hun Dun snorted coldly. Although she is indeed excellent, I'm used to freedom and don't want to be restrained by others. Although the little fairy is bad, she is still very good to her spiritual pets. She won't be too restrained to you, Butt Face advised. You don't have to say it. On account of your face, I can let you leave. As for the matter of recognizing your master, forget it, Hun Dun said with certainty. Chapter 5139 Beauty in the prime of time. Butt Face tried to persuade him for a while, but his mouth was dry. Hun Dun did not agree. Just as Butt Face was about to fly into a rage, Yun Shujo said faintly, "Hun Dun, if you don't acknowledge me as your master, you won't be able to leave this place. If that's the case, won't your beauty in the prime of time be buried? Don't you want to show the world what true beauty is?" Hearing this, Hun Dun trembled in excitement. "Do you really think I'm beautiful? Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much." Yun Shujo nodded with certainty. "You're really beautiful. You can conquer the world with your beauty." Butt Face staggered and almost fell to the ground. "Beauty? Little fairy, is it really good for you to lie like this?" Hun Dun believed it. He immediately shook his long hair and said excitedly, "Cheong Chi is right. You little girl are indeed very outstanding. What you said makes sense. I can't hide my beauty. I've decided to acknowledge you as my master. However, we have to sign an equal contract." Yun Shujo nodded and immediately signed an equal contract with Hun Dun. Butt Face lit a huge candle for Hun Dun in his heart. This brainless fellow would soon know what it meant to regret what he had done. After signing the contract, Yun Shujo revealed a mysterious smile. However, this smile was inexplicably cold in Hun Dun's eyes. It must be because of the knot in its long hair that it felt a little cold. "Hun Dun, these 5 are Gen, right? Where did you get them?" Yun Shujo asked. Hun Dun said casually, "You little girl, you are really knowledgeable." "Not bad, these 5 are indeed Gen, they are just 5 weak chickens. If not for the fact that they also have long hair, I would have eaten them long ago. Why would I still keep them until now?" Yun Shujo said with some suspicion, "They are not too weak, right? Didn't their singing sound before confuse those demon beasts and people?" Hun Dun pursed his lips. "Although they can sing to confuse people, their power isn't that great. It's because I cooperated with them that they can perform like this. Actually, I didn't catch them to let them help me hunt, but to let them comb my long hair. Although they are stupid, it's still better than nothing." "You said that you were the one who sang those songs?" Yun Shujo found it hard to imagine that the thing in front of her could sing like that. Hun Dun snorted coldly. "Not only am I as beautiful as a flower, but am also good at singing and dancing." "What is this little singing?" Yun Shujo was a little confused. How could this thing be good at singing and dancing? At this moment, Butt Face said, "Little fairy, what it said is true. Apart from the long hair on its body, Hun Dun's other tricks are singing and dancing." Although he looks ugly, he can indeed sing and dance well. Moreover, his singing and dancing contain killing intent, making it impossible to guard against him. Hearing Dog 2's words, Yun Shujo finally believed it a little. Then, she asked, since you are so powerful, why did I break your singing? Han Dun said unhappily, firstly, my strength has dropped greatly. Secondly, that damn brat used some Buddha sound killer that was played by the jade glass Bodhi leaf to break my singing. Therefore, when I hear the voice of the jade Bodhi leaf, I tremble and can't perform at all. Fuck, if I find that damned girl, or the reincarnation of that damned girl, I will definitely shave her bald head and draw a little bastard on her head, so that she will never be able to marry. Chapter 51. Glory World's beauty was gone just as Han Dun was speaking. He heard Yun Shujo say sinisterly, do you want to die? When Han Dun heard that, he said snappily, you're the one who wants to die. Little girl, I'm warning you. Although we have established a contract, I'm not here to be bullied. You better be careful. But Face silently retreated a distance and lit a row of huge candles for Han Dun in his heart. This idiot was courting death with his strength. At this moment, Yun Shujo sneered, the person who warned me will only have two outcomes. Do you know what they are? What are they? Han Dun shook his long hair that was covered in knots and asked indifferently. One is dead, and the other is living a life worse than death. Which do you choose? Yun Shujo took out a large kitchen knife and said coldly. Han Dun laughed out loud, I'm dying of laughter. You little weakling, you still dare to threaten me? Do you think that I'm afraid of you because I've established a contract with you? Whatever methods you have, just use them. No matter how much you slice me, I won't let out a snort. Yun Shujo revealed an extremely brilliant smile. I won't slice you into 1,000 pieces. I want you to experience the feeling of running for your life. Han Dun was stunned at first, then he curled his lips and said, you want to learn from that smelly girl? TSK, don't you think about your own weight? If you dare to touch even a single hair of mine, I will kill you. Before Han Dun finished his words, he felt a sharp pain from his spiritual sense. He stared at Yun Shujo in disbelief. Impossible. We signed an equal contract, and my spiritual sense is much bigger than yours. How can you suppress me with your spiritual sense? Yun Shujo ignored him. She held the kitchen knife and scratched Han Dun's head. Han Dun's long hair instantly fell to the ground. Han Dun screamed miserably, I'll fight you to the death. Unfortunately, its spiritual sense was suppressed by Yun Shujo. It could not resist at all. Before it could get up, it fell to the ground. Soon, Han Dun's head became bald. Hei Shinjo put away the kitchen knife and sneered. She picked up a brush and drew a lifelike bastard on Han Dun's head. After Yun Shujo finished drawing, she said, But Face, what do you think of my drawing? But Face gloated, little fairy, your drawing is too realistic. You are indeed my idol. Not only are you devastatingly beautiful, but you are also versatile. But Face's words were quickly interrupted by Han Dun's scream. Han Dun looked at the bald girl in the crystal mirror and felt his heart was about to break. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. His long hair. His magnificent beauty. All of it had turned into bubbles. Especially that little bastard on top of his head, who was actually grinning. It was simply a great humiliation. Han Dun bared his teeth and pounced on Yun Shujo. If he did not kill her today, he would not be called Han Dun. However, before he could even get close to Yun Shujo, he fell to the ground due to the intense pain of his divine sense. Han Dun tried a few times, but the result was the same. It lay on the ground and wailed, I don't want to live anymore. I don't have the face to see people anymore. I'm disfigured. I don't have my beauty anymore. Yun Shujo said faintly, if you continue to howl, you won't just be bald lady anymore. Do you want to try the feeling of running for your life again? Han Dun's howl came to an abrupt end. If it was before, it might not believe that Yunchujo would do such a terrible thing. But now, it believed. Chapter 51-41 The leaving and staying of the 5 gens. Seeing that Hun Dun was no longer howling, Yunchujo said, Hun Dun, what are you going to do with these 5 gen? Hun Dun said in a stuttering voice, buy 1, get 5 free. It's up to you whether you want them or not. Yunchujo knew that Hun Dun kept these 5 gen mostly for grooming it. However, she did not care about raising 5 more gen. Although Hun Dun said that their abilities were not that great, it did not matter if she kept them. She did not expect the 5 dugongs to show a pleading expression like humans. Yunchujo did not understand what they meant, but Hun Dun did. It shouted impatiently, get lost. Get lost. Anyway, you are all clumsy, I don't care about you. When the time comes, I will find a few human girls to serve me and shave them all into bald heads. Yunchujo's eyes flashed and then asked, what happened to them? Hun Dun said unhappily, they don't want to leave the 10,000-year-old swamp. Since they have served me for so many years, I will let them go. Yunchujo did not care about this. Her target was Hun Dun. As for the 5 gen, they did not have any ability, so she did not want them. Following that, the 5 gen quickly ran away. They were probably afraid that Hun Dun would go back on his word. Yunchujo saw that there was nothing else and said to Hun Dun, let's go up. Wait a moment, I want to take these fallen hair away with me. As Hun Dun spoke, he began to tidy up the fallen hair on the ground. As he tidied it up, he cried. He cried so hard that it was as if he was crying when he heard it. Yunchujo rolled her eyes speechlessly and urged him, hurry up, or else you'll have to run. Hearing that, Hun Dun quickly sped up and kept all the fallen hair. After exiting the cave, Yunchujo kept Hun Dun into her spirit beast bag and then floated to the surface of the water. She did not want everyone to know that she had subdued Hun Dun. At least, she did not want to make it public for the time being. Everyone was burning with anxiety at this moment. When they saw Yunchujo come out, they could not help but heave a sigh of relief. Yunchujo said to everyone and the swamp demon beasts, that Hun Dun has disappeared for some unknown reason. Let's hurry and leave this place at this time. Everyone's expression was a little complicated. Old Tua and the others wanted to say something but hesitated. However, they still followed Yunchujo's instructions and quickly crossed the celestial pond. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. After they had left the celestial pond for some distance, Old Tua found an opportunity to say to Yunchujo, previously, there was an ancient and complicated pattern above the celestial pond. It looked like a contract. Could it be that you have subdued Hun Dun? Yunchujo's heart tightened. Oh no, she had actually forgotten about this matter. Hun Dun was an ancient ferocious beast. Naturally, there would be a huge commotion when it recognized its master. What should they do? However, this fellow thought about it. No one had seen it anyway. Even if she did not admit it, others could only guess and could not prove it. Therefore, this fellow said calmly, I wanted to subdue it, but after we reached the bottom of the water, it suddenly disappeared just as it was about to eat me. Old General Tua was skeptical, but he did not continue to ask. The most important thing now was to leave this 10,000-year-old swamp as soon as possible. Other things were secondary. Mukelu and the others were also very suspicious, but they did not dare to offend Yunchujo, so they naturally did not ask. However, they originally wanted to kill Yunchujo after leaving the 10,000-year-old swamp, but now they did not dare to make a move. What if that stinky girl really subdued Hun Dun? Once they made a move, wouldn't they be courting death? Chapter 51-42, Blue Light. Although everyone had their own thoughts, they did not delay their journey. Whether it was the earth chi that was spreading continuously behind them or the 10,000-year-old swamp, everyone felt uneasy and wished they could leave this place immediately. Yun Shujo also felt uneasy. She recalled what Di Biming had said before. He felt that there was danger in the depths of this 10,000-year-old swamp. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. That danger should not be referring to Han Dun. After all, this thing was nothing to her. So what kind of danger was it? Yun Shujo thought of this and used her divine sense to look at the spirit beast bag. Then, her face stiffened. She saw that inside the spirit beast bag, a few silly cubs were enthusiastically helping Han Dun untie the knot in his long hair. Yun Shujo could not help but feel puzzled. These silly cubs were not easy to deal with. How could they be so cooperative with Han Dun? But Face quickly answered her question. Little fairy, this fool Han Dun has a lot of good things and delicious food on him. He hired us to comb his hair as a reward. Yun Shujo, the corner of Yun Shujia's eyes twitched, and then she asked, Han Dun, is there anything scary in this 10,000-year-old swamp? Han Dun really didn't want to bother with Yun Shujo. He said unhappily, scary? Nothing is more scary than you in front of me. Han Dun, do you really want to run away? Yun Shujo said coldly. Han Dun immediately cowered and changed his face. What I mean is, you are so outstanding that nothing can stop you. Yun Shujo was speechless. She had realized that this Han Dun was similar to Butt Face in some aspects. However, this Han Dun was more stupid. Stop talking nonsense and tell me honestly. Han Dun gritted his teeth in his heart. However, the beast had no choice but to lower his head under the eaves. He said, I'm afraid that the mud will dirty my long hair, so I basically won't leave the pool. I've only heard from the 5 Gen that blue light would occasionally flash about 500 li away from the pool. I don't know what exactly it is. However, I've never heard of any demon beast being injured by the blue light, so it shouldn't be a big deal. Yun Shujo narrowed her eyes. Blue light? Could it be that the danger the pretty boy felt was the blue light? Yun Shujo did not know why, but she thought of the blue glass. However, the gigolo and her both had red glass on them, so she was not afraid. Thinking of this, Yun Shujo heaved a sigh of relief. She found an opportunity to tell the silver snake what had happened. The silver snake said with uncertainty, I can't sense the specific danger either. I'm just a little flustered. Let's just be careful. As they traveled, Yun Shujo saw the blue light that Han Dun mentioned. From afar, the area in front of them was covered by the blue light. It looked beautiful. Someone exclaimed, it's so beautiful. Could it be that there's a treasure in front of us that is emitting such a dazzling light? Yun Shujo felt that something was wrong with the little silver snake in her sleeve pocket. A cold air came from the sleeve pocket and made her shiver. She reached into the sleeve and felt a layer of ice on the small silver snake's body. Yun Shujia's heart sank. It seemed that her guess was right. The blue light could trigger the cold poison in the pretty boy's body. Now that there was such a big effect even though they were so far away, wouldn't the pretty boy die if they went any further? Chapter 51-43. He was about to faint. Yun Shujo was in a dilemma. If she continued forward, Di Biming might be in danger because of the cold poison. However, if she did not continue forward, the earth chi would continue to approach her. Regardless of whether she advanced or retreated, it would be extremely dangerous. Di Biming seemed to have sensed Yun Shujia's thoughts and said with difficulty, I am fine. Hurry, and hurry. Yun Shujo gritted her teeth. If she encountered earth chi, she would definitely die. The blue light in front of her still had a chance of survival, so she could only continue forward. She bit her little finger and forced it into the small silver snake's mouth. She said fiercely, if you don't want to die, hurry up and suck it. Yun Shujo saw that the small silver snake did not have any reaction. She gritted her teeth and said, if you die, I will immediately marry someone else and turn your head into a prairie. This time, the small silver snake finally made its move. However, the small silver snake's vertical pupils had a faint watery light pervading them. What he owed her, he would repay it with life and death. Regardless of life or death, he would never abandon her. When Yun Shujo saw that the small silver snake's condition was slightly better, her eyes darkened. She chose a swamp bloodthirsty crocodile and directly jumped onto its back, ordering it to move forward at the fastest speed. She turned her head and said to the crowd, "They'll go ahead and scout the way." After saying this, Yun Shujo sat on the swamp vampire crocodile and left. The crowd was dumbfounded. Was she going to scout the way or leaving them alone? However, fortunately, the swamp demon beasts were as usual, so their hearts were slightly more at ease. On the other side, Yun Shujo sat on the swamp vampire crocodile and swam for a distance. She couldn't help but frown. Although the swamp bloodthirsty crocodile's speed was relatively fast, she was still not satisfied. Moreover, there were occasionally some demonic beasts poking their heads out, wanting to wait for an opportunity to attack. Yun Shujo directly threw Hun Dun, who was enjoying the grooming service in the spiritual beast bag, into the swamp. Hun Dun cried out in the swamp, "Ah! Ah! My long hair! It's so dirty! Quickly take me in." Yun Shujo said coldly, "If you don't want to be bald forever, then quickly carry me out of here." Hun Dun was startled by Yun Shujo's cold tone and shut his mouth, not daring to say anything. Yun Shujo jumped onto Hun Dun's back and then put the swamp bloodthirsty crocodile into the spirit beast bag. The moment Yun Shujo sat on Hun Dun's back, Hun Dun shivered and thought, "Why is it so cold? Could it be because it had become bald?" Just as Hun Dun's thoughts were running wild, Yun Shujo tugged at its long fur and said, "Let's go." Hun Dun was furious. This damned brat was just as detestable as the brat in the mask. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. However, it did not dare to disobey and could only move forward quickly. Although Hun Dun was arrogant, it was still very fast in the swamp. It was more than 10 times faster than the bloodthirsty crocodile in the swamp. Yun Shujo took out the small silver snake from her sleeve and used the temperature of her hands to melt the thin ice on its body. Yun Shujo remembered that when she kissed Di Biming previously, Guai Chao would occasionally draw out the cold poison in Di Biming's body. Hence, she lowered her head and kissed the small silver snake. The small silver snake's body turned pink in an instant. The cold poison was instantly thrown out of the sky. Although he was now a snake, no, a dragon, but this was still him. He actually had skin-to-skin contact with the ugly girl? No, he was going to faint. Chapter 5144 was really unlucky. A certain amnesiac snake could not stand such a huge stimulation. The entire snake became even more stiff. A phrase kept flashing in its mind, "I was forcefully kissed. I was forcefully kissed. I was forcefully kissed." Yun Shujo did not know that this particular snake still had so much drama in its heart at this time. After a few kisses, it realized that there was no effect and did not kiss again. Hun Dun saw this scene clearly and cursed in his heart. This stinky girl was indeed a pervert. She actually took a fancy to a snake. And she even openly kissed each other. How shameless. However, it soon discovered that the small silver snake was the source of the chill. It was puzzled in its heart. How could this snake emit such a strong chill? As the distance between them got closer and closer, Yun Shujo also saw the source of the blue light clearly. There was actually a blue marble mine under the swamp. However, the pretty boy had red marble on his body, so why did it increase the frost poison? Thinking of this, Yun Shujo could not help but curse herself for being an idiot. Di Biming had now turned into a small silver snake. Firstly, he could not use his storage ring, and secondly, he could not activate the red marble. Yun Shujo immediately took out her red marble and activated it with her spiritual power. Di Biming's condition instantly improved a lot. Images of him and Yunchujo in the ghost realm surfaced in his mind. Only then did he remember some things about the blazing red glass. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yunchujo did not dare to stay any longer and hurriedly asked Hundun to carry her away. She faintly felt that it should not be as simple as the sapphire blue glass mine. There should be other dangers. However, at this moment, the blue marble ore suddenly split open from the middle and a huge suction force came from within. Hundun and Yunchujo were both sucked in. Then, the blue marble ore sank into the mud, as if it had never appeared. Yunchujo found that her surroundings were dark and there was no light at all. She was going to take out the luminous pearl to light up, but she found that she could not open her storage ring. Her heart could not help but sink. At this moment, she heard Hundun wailing, "It's over. It's over. I can't use spiritual power here. Not only am I disfigured, I'm going to lose my life. I'm really unlucky." Yunchujo was annoyed by its call and shouted, "Shut up. What are you shouting for? You want to threaten us with the fruit? HMPH, you can't use spiritual power here. I'm not afraid of you at all." Hundun said angrily. It felt that it was extremely miserable. It was originally free and unfettered in the pool, but it was shaved bald by this smelly girl. Now that it was implicated by her in this damn place, couldn't it just shout a few words? It was really unreasonable. Yunchujo couldn't be bothered with this idiot Hundun anymore. She had to think of a way to figure out what this place was so that she could leave this place. However, she couldn't use her storage ring. She didn't have anything to illuminate the place, so she didn't know what this place was. The Guai Chao in her dantian shook its leaves. HMPH, if it wasn't for the fact that its little treasury had been used up, it could still illuminate the place for her and even help her leave. However, who asked her not to let her out before? She deserved it. At this moment, Di Biming said to her from inside his sleeve, blazing red, "Although the light from the glass is weak, it can also be used to illuminate." Yunchujo suddenly realized that since she didn't have any spiritual power, the blazing red glass no longer had any suppressive effect on the blue marble. Di Biming's cold poison had increased again. Chapter 51-45 Could she be? She quickly took out the small silver snake and the red glazed tile from her sleeve pocket. Under the faint light of the red glazed tile, Yunchujo saw that the small silver snake's body was once again covered in ice, and it had already fainted. Her heart ached. Without thinking, she put the small silver snake directly into her arms, wanting to use the temperature of her body to alleviate his cold poison. She felt that the small silver snake seemed to be better, so she raised the fiery red glass in her hand to check the situation around her. Yunchujo held the fiery red glass in her left hand and the large kitchen knife in her right hand. When she felt that something was wrong, her first reaction was to take out the large kitchen knife from her storage ring. This was her subconscious reaction. Because there was no light, Hundun did not see the large kitchen knife in Yunchujo's hand before. Now that he saw it, he immediately shrunk his neck. Fortunately, it did not make any noise later. Otherwise, this stupid girl might really shave all its fur. Yunchujo used the weak light from the red-colored glass to check. They should be in the blue charm glass mine now. What a good plan. The blue charm glass could activate the cold poison in the gigolo's body. Locking them here, they did not need to do anything to take the gigolo's life. When Hundun saw Yunchujo's grave expression, he immediately cried out, "It's over. We will definitely die here. I didn't expect that I, a magnificent beast, would die so dirty in the end." The corner of Yunchujo's eyes twitched. This Hundun was not only stupid, but he could not speak human language. What did he mean by dirty death? However, she quickly realized that what Hundun meant by dirty should be its long hair. As it had traveled in the mud for such a long time, its long hair was covered in mud, and its original appearance could not be seen at all. Don't worry, we won't die. Yun Shujo said lightly. Won't die? Don't deceive yourself. This is obviously in the mine, and we can't use spiritual power now. I don't even have claws, how can I get out? Han Dun asked dejectedly. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yun Shujo picked up the large kitchen knife and slashed at a mine wall. Kacha, a crack instantly appeared on the mine wall. Han Dun was stunned at first, then he shouted, no wonder your lousy kitchen knife can shave off my hair. It's so powerful. It's as powerful as that stinky girl's axe. Yun Shujia's heart moved, and she asked, what axe? Han Dun said angrily, it's that stupid girl's axe with the mask. She used an axe to cut off my long hair. Yun Shujo thought, the big kitchen knife should be the Heaven Punisher Divine Axe. So, the Heaven Punisher Divine Axe was originally hers? Then, why did it end up in the ancient sword tomb? And why did it become a big kitchen knife? Yun Shujo did not know if it was an illusion, but she felt the large kitchen knife in her hand tremble slightly. She chuckled and said, regardless of whether you are the Heaven Punisher Divine Axe or the large kitchen knife, we are all partners fighting side by side. Yun Shujo really felt the large kitchen knife tremble again. She could not help but reveal a trace of a smile. She touched the blade of the knife with her hand and continued to chop the cliff wall. Han Dun was confused. What did that damned girl mean? What did she mean by, no matter if you are the Heaven Punisher Axe or the kitchen knife, we are all partners fighting side by side? Why was it a little confused? Why did it feel like something was wrong? Jade Bodhi leaf, little bastard, kitchen knife. Could it be that she was? Chapter 5146 was only because you were you. Han Dun cried out in surprise, you are that stinky girl wearing a mask. No, your age is not right, are you her reincarnation? Yun Shujo turned her head and smiled brightly at Han Dun, you finally reacted? Long time no see, I miss you so much, I will treat you well in the future. Han Dun suddenly felt that the entire beast was in bad shape. It felt that the beast had no hope. It had actually fallen into the hands of its enemy, and it even acknowledged the thief as its father. No, it acknowledged the thief as its master. How stupid was it? For the first time, Han Dun doubted its own intelligence and fell into an indescribable tragedy. Just as it was feeling depressed, Yun Shujo said to it, I'm tired from chopping, you do it. Han Dun lay on the ground helplessly and said, I don't have claws, so I can't hold the knife. Yun Shujo sneered, don't you have long hair? If it's so useless, then shave it all off. Han Dun immediately jumped up from the ground, I'm just kidding. As the saying goes, it's better to have claws than no claws at this time. Please rest, I'll do it. Yun Shujo looked at it speechlessly and then handed the large kitchen knife to it. Han Dun used its long hair to hold the hilt of the knife and began to chop the rock wall. Seeing that it was chopping smoothly, Yun Shujo took out the small silver snake from her bosom to check the situation. Although the ice on the small silver snake's body was melted by Yun Shujia's body temperature, it was still in a coma. Yun Shujo bit her little finger again and dripped the blood into the small silver snake's mouth. Although Han Dun did not have eyes, it did not hinder it from seeing things. When it saw Yun Shujia's actions, it cursed in its heart. TSK, this wretched girl was still a lover. She was actually so affectionate towards a snake. However, from the conversation between her and the snake, it seemed that the snake was originally a human. It was really too complicated. Forget it, I should just do my job honestly. It still wanted to use its beauty to conquer the world, it could not die here. At this moment, the silver snake woke up. When it saw Yun Shujo feeding it blood again, it immediately struggled with difficulty. Yun Shujo did not continue feeding it. Although her blood was useful in restraining the cold poison, its effect was limited. As long as the pretty boy's life was not in danger, it was fine. It was unknown whether it was because of the cold poison acting up or because of the blood on Yunshujia's finger. She asked the question that had been buried in her heart ever since she lost her memory. Not only am I unable to protect you, I even dragged you down. Is it worth it for you to do this? Hun Dun immediately pricked up its ears. Although its 2 ears were for decoration, it at least represented its burning desire to gossip. Then, it heard Yunshujia's voice with a faint smile. There is nothing worth it, just because you are you. Hun Dun curled its lips. It thought that it would hear some touching words of love, but it actually said such a sentence? What did she mean by, just because you are you? Wasn't this nonsense? The vertical pupils of the small silver snake were filled with a layer of mist. He slowly said, I got it. Don't worry, I will always be me. Hun Dun curled his lips once again. No wonder they had formed a pair. They were a pair of fools. Yunshujo smiled and nodded. In fact, she wanted to cry. However, she knew that she could not cry. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Perhaps others would think that she had suffered more in this relationship because she had fed debeiming blood. She was implicated because of debeiming. Even the time they spent together was limited. However, she knew that debeiming had suffered more than she had. Chapter 51-47 felt that they were very compatible. Debeiming was a very proud person, but he was unable to protect the woman she loved. His heart must be in pain. Not to mention, he even needed Yunshujo to protect him. To him, this was 10,000 times more painful than any torture. Not to mention, he also had to bear the unknown dangers that Yunshujo did not know. If it were not for him keeping those people from the Divine Demon Hall in check, Yunshujo would not be so happy in the other continents and enjoy the same life as ordinary people. Even in her past life. Although Yunshujo did not know what happened in her past life, she vaguely felt that this cold poison seemed to be related to her. Otherwise, her blood would not have such an effect. She recalled Shi Ying's words that they were enemies in her previous life and could not help but curl her lips. Although she did not have the memories of her previous life, she, Yunshujo, had never been a woman who was restricted by the secular world. Love was love. No matter what happened in her previous life, she would definitely want debeiming. No one or anything could tear them apart. Even if the heavenly Tao did not allow it, she would defy the heavens and change her fate. She would never yield. When Hun Dun saw the appearance of the man and the snake, he did not know why, but his heart felt a little sour. TSK, he felt that they were a good match. Was it blind? Yunshujo calmed her emotions and prepared to let Hun Dun rest for a while. Hence, she placed the small silver snake in her arms again. Previously, the small silver snake had lost consciousness, so it was nothing. However, it was different now. A sentence appeared in his mind. No, a poem. Only a small lotus would show its sharp horns. Almost in an instant, the small silver snake felt its body become slightly hot. Even the cold poison could not suppress the burning heat. He felt that it was not good. It seemed that he was about to transform. Yunshujo also felt that the small silver snake seemed to be a little strange. She quickly took it out from her bosom. Before she could take a closer look, the small silver snake fell to the ground, emitting a dazzling white light. After the white light dissipated, a certain lord used all his strength and roared in embarrassment, "Close your eyes for me." Yunshujo quickly covered her eyes with her hands and said, don't worry. I'm covering my eyes." The lord looked at the gaps between Hei Xinjia's fingers and her lecherous eyes. He was so angry that he almost passed out. He wanted to use something to cover his eyes, but he couldn't use his spiritual power here, so he couldn't use his storage ring. Therefore, he could only be naked. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Moreover, after he turned into a human, the cold poison was even more severe, and he could not move even if he wanted to. After Yun Shujo had seen enough, she took off her coat and covered a certain deity's body. She said hypocritically, "Io, Prince Charming, the weather is so cold, don't freeze yourself." Of course, during the process of covering him, he did not forget to touch him. It was simply wonderful. Hun Dun watched the entire process, but when his gaze landed on Di Biming's face, he shivered and did not dare to say a word. He obediently continued to hack at the rock wall. At this moment, the feelings of a certain being could not be described with words. He wished that he could pass out immediately. However, he was so clear-headed that he could not be more clear-headed. Moreover, almost at this moment, some of the not-so-good memories of the fruit run surfaced. Yun Shujo blinked her eyes and her gaze fell on a certain man's tightly pursed lips. She said slyly, "Prince Charming, come, let's kiss. Maybe we can suck out the cold poison." You, a certain man's face suddenly turned red. Although he had kissed her just now, she was not in human form after all. Now, she had to kiss him again. Was it inappropriate? Chapter 51-48. There was still a long way to go at this moment. A certain being's mental state was extremely complicated. As he had lost his memory, this was still his first kiss. It didn't count when he turned into a snake. Seeing Yun Shujia's moist red lips getting closer and closer, the certain being's little heart was beating violently, almost jumping out of his chest. However, a dazzling white light flashed, and the certain being once again turned into a small silver snake. A certain being was in a very good mood at the moment. Although he was a little glad that he had avoided the ending of being kissed forcefully, he was more disappointed. Of course, he wouldn't say it out loud. Hei Shinjo sighed, "What a pity. Forget it, there's still time in the future." She didn't really want to take advantage of a certain being. She wanted to make his mood change more intensely. This way, it might have some effect on restraining the cold poison. Of course, this guy would definitely not admit that she also had a little bit of lust in her. When a certain someone heard the words, "There will be plenty of time in the future," a sweet feeling welled up in his heart for some unknown reason. That's right, the ugly girl was his fiancée. They would spend a lot of time together in the future. However, when he thought of the mastermind behind the scenes, his heart was filled with boundless anger. Who exactly wanted to take his life? Such a huge sum of money, one could imagine the strength of the person behind the scenes. But, so what? He had never been afraid. Thinking of this, a certain honored guest felt a little guilty. It didn't seem like he was fearless, right? However, a certain honored guest quickly threw this thought to the back of his mind. Towards that ugly girl, he wasn't afraid, but he was just accommodating. Yes, that was it. Hei Shinjo did not know about the complicated mental activities of a certain being. Seeing that the silver snake was in better condition, she took out a blanket and placed the silver snake on the ground. Then, she said to Hun Dun, "Take a rest. I'll do it." Hun Dun handed the large kitchen knife to Yun Shujo and moved to the side of the silver snake. His eyes, which did not have eyes, sized up the silver snake sneakily. By accident, he met the cold eyes of the small silver snake. Hun Dun's tiger body immediately trembled, and he shrank to the side without daring to make a sound. After Yun Shujo saw Hun Dun's cowardly look, she could not help but wonder why Buttface and Hun Dun were so afraid of the gigolo. Although the gigolo was the so-called Xingzun, she was still the ghost ancestor. Why were they not so afraid of her? It was really strange. Although this guy was puzzled, he didn't have time to think about it. All he wanted to do now was to break the rock wall and get out as soon as possible so that Di Biming wouldn't have to suffer so much. Yun Shujo and Hun Dun took turns to fight. After 2 days and 2 nights of fighting, they vaguely heard a slight noise outside. Yun Shujo couldn't help but feel happy. It seemed that they were going to break the rock wall. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. However, at this moment, the entire blue marble mine trembled violently. It was about to collapse. Hun Dun cursed anxiously, "Damn it, it's over, it's going to be buried alive." Yun Shujo was also extremely anxious. Since the ball of yarn did not move, it meant that the great void mirror could not enter. Moreover, even if she could enter, she would not abandon D-Biming and escape alone. However, what should she do? Determination flashed across the small silver snake's vertical pupils. "I'll do it." Yun Shujia's first reaction was to stop him because she knew that once D-Biming did that, there would definitely be extremely serious consequences. Hence, she shouted, "Stop! I have a way. Prince Charming, I really have a way, don't take the risk." Hun Dun curled his lips. At this time, he was still showing off their love. Shameless. Chapter 5149. Reunion. D-Biming did not believe Yun Shujia's words and asked, "Do you have any ideas?" Yun Shujo thought to herself, how could she have any ideas? But no matter what, she could not let D-Biming take the risk. At this moment, there were already tiny rocks falling down. It was estimated that this place would collapse very soon. Yun Shujo bit her lips. What should she do? What should she do? At this moment, she could not think of a solution at all. Hun Dun could not care about anything else. He shouted, "Your Holiness, don't listen to her. Hurry up and make your move. Otherwise, we will all die here." Yun Shujo wished that she could strangle Hun Dun to death. She tried to dissuade him, "Male God, wait a little longer. I will definitely think of a solution." D-Biming did not listen to her this time because he knew that she had no solution. He was the only one who could make a move. Although the price after taking action was a little heavy, it was still better than dying here. Just as D-Biming was about to use his secret technique, the kitchen knife in Yun Shujia's hand suddenly flashed with red light. She broke free from Yun Shujia's hand and slashed at the cliff wall. Immediately, mud gushed in. Fortunately, Yun Shujia's spiritual power had recovered. She quickly raised her spiritual power barrier and enveloped herself and the small silver snake. Yun Shujo put away her big kitchen knife and sat on Hun Dun's back. She grabbed its long hair tightly and shouted at the dazed Hun Dun, "What are you still standing there for? Why aren't you taking us out?" Only then did Hun Dun come back to his senses. He thought to himself, "Io, has this broken kitchen knife become a spirit?" However, it also knew that this was not a place to stay for long. It swam upwards at its fastest speed. Hun Dun's speed was very fast, especially in order to escape for its life. It was extraordinary, and in the blink of an eye, it had already brought Yun Shujo up to the top. The moment Yun Shujo saw the sky, her nose turned sour, and she almost cried. "Woo woo, I don't have to die. I can use my beauty to conquer the world again." Hun Dun shouted with his mouth wide open. Yun Shujo glared at it. She had not forgotten that it had instigated a certain lord to use a secret technique. Hun Dun could not help but feel guilty after being glared at by her. He quickly changed the topic, "It might not be safe here. Let's leave this place quickly." After saying that, the thing brought Yun Shujo and swam forward quickly. Yun Shujo curled her lips and ignored it. Anyway, there was still a long way to go. She judged the direction and looked around. She could not help but be stunned. The earth aura had actually disappeared. However, it was also true. The earth aura had originally wanted to force her to the vicinity of the blue marble mine. After the mission was completed, it naturally disappeared. Only then did Yun Shujo remember the people of the Lan family. However, she was not too worried. After all, there were those swamp demon beasts. Mu Kelu and the others did not dare to do anything to the people of the Lan family. Just as they were about to leave the swamp area, Yun Shujo kept Hun Dun and switched to the swamp bloodthirsty crocodile. 2 hours later, Yun Shujo saw many people standing on a hard ground from afar. When she got closer, she realized that it was Lan Dimeo and the others. Everyone was pleasantly surprised when they saw Yun Shujo. Lan Luofang cried, "Little Jiu, I knew that you would be fine. After all, the scourge lives for 1,000 years. You will definitely not die." Yun Shujo, sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. After everyone greeted her, Yun Shujo asked, why didn't I see the people from the other 3 families? Are they all dead? Everyone, Lan Dimeo sneered and said, after they arrived here, they took the swamp boat and left. If they weren't worried about these swamp beasts, they would have directly attacked. Chapter 5150 The psychological trauma of Hun Dun. Yun Shujo was not surprised by this. The 3 families and the Lan family had always been using each other. If it wasn't for the matter of the blue marble mine, she had originally planned to get rid of them before they came out of the swamp. However, God's plan wasn't as good as people's plans, so it was too easy for them. However, the 3 families might even set up an ambush on the way back to the Lan family. After Yun Shujo told him her guess, Lan Dimeo sneered and said, that's for sure. After we leave the 10,000-year-old swamp, we'll find a place where we can send a voice transmission talisman and ask our ancestors to send people to pick us up. Yun Shujo didn't say anything more after hearing what he said. Anyway, even if there were no reinforcements, she might not be afraid of them. If it was really impossible, she could still make Hun Dun sing to confuse them. At this moment, Hun Dun said in a bad mood, don't count on me. Yun Shujo asked coldly, are you trying to run away? It's not that I don't want to help you. Who asked you to shave all the long hair on my head? Only when the long hair on my head grows out, can I sing. Hun Dun said with some grievance. Yun Shujo sneered, do you think I'm easy to fool? This is the first time I've heard that singing has something to do with the hair on my head. According to you, all baldies can't sing anymore? Isn't this all because of you? The incident where you shaved me off in your previous life had caused me serious psychological trauma, so I can't sing when I think about my baldness now, Hun Dun said with a sobbing voice. Yun Shujo saw that it didn't look like it was lying, and there was a rare hint of pain in its conscience. She guessed that Hun Dun was probably telling the truth. After all, it could not sing when it heard the voice of the jade glass Bodhi leaf. Clearly, it really had a psychological trauma. Yun Shujo softened her tone. Then how long will it take for the long hair on your head to grow back? I can't say for sure. It will take at least a few hundred years. Hun Dun said. Yun Shujo, she finally understood why Hun Dun's psychological trauma was so big. Anyone who ran for hundreds of years would collapse, okay? However, she immediately threw a basin of hair-growing pills into the spiritual beast bag and said to Hun Dun, rub it on me 8 times a day. I promise that your long hair will grow back very quickly. Hun Dun asked in confusion, what is this? Hair-growing pills. Hun Dun was stunned at first, then she jumped happily, hair-growing pills? Does that mean that after I rub it on, my long hair will grow back very quickly? Yes. But I haven't used it on a beast, so I'm not sure about the effect. You can try it, Yun Shujo said. Hun Dun couldn't care less about Yun Shujo, so he immediately hired Buttface to apply hair growth pill on it. Yun Shujo remembered the abnormality of the big kitchen knife, so she immediately took out the big kitchen knife from her storage ring. However, she found that the big kitchen knife didn't seem to be any different from before. It seemed that it would take some time for it to fully wake up. Although Yun Shujo was a little disappointed, she didn't take it to heart. She believed that the weapon spirit of the kitchen knife would awaken sooner or later, so she wasn't in a hurry. However, she didn't think too much about Qi Ling. A moment later, Yun Shujo brought everyone on the swamp boat and left the hard ground. Of course, before she left, she gave a lot of demon beast meat and medicinal pills to the demon beasts in the swamp. She was still very honest. Those demon beasts were simply happy. These demon beast meat and pills were a small matter. They had heard from the swamp bloodthirsty crocodile that the fiend inside the celestial pond had been subdued by that smelly girl. In the future, they could bathe in the celestial pond and think about the birth of beasts. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 51 Burning bridges. After crossing the river, although there were some minor waves in the next few days, it was not a big deal. On this day, the members of the Land family finally left the 10,000-year-old swamp. Although they were a little worried that the other 3 families would set up an ambush, it was still much better than staying in the 10,000-year-old swamp. Yun Shujio said to Lan Dimeo, "Uncle, Grandpa, the old ancestor will definitely think of this. Perhaps he has already arranged reinforcements, so we don't have to worry too much." Lan Dimeo felt that what Yun Shujio said made sense. The old ancestor was wise, so he should have made some arrangements, so he was not so worried. After walking for about half a day, they were about to leave the no-fly zone, but the road ahead was blocked by someone. The leader was Mu Kelu and the others. The Mu family had lost a lot of manpower in the 10,000-year-old swamp. When they left the 10,000-year-old swamp, there were less than 500 people left. At this time, there were 3,000 to 4,000 people. It was obvious that reinforcements had arrived. Mu Kelu and the others' gazes paused on Yun Shujio for a moment. This wretched girl was really lucky. She was actually still alive? Mu Kelu said with a fake smile, "Brother Dimeo, we meet again." Lan Dimeo sneered, "What? Are you guys planning to burn the bridge after crossing the river?" Mu Kelu laughed out loud, "Don't make it sound so bad. In the 10,000-year-old swamp, we are just using each other. Brother Dimeo, I advise you to kill yourself. This way, you won't suffer unnecessary pain." Lan Dimeo snorted. "Your 3 families have reinforcements. Our Lan family also has reinforcements. It's not certain who will win. Don't be so full of yourself." Hearing Lan Dimeo's words, Mu Kelu and the others laughed even more savagely. Zhuang Ruhai said mockingly, "Reinforcements? Don't even think about it. Didn't you notice that Lan Luohan and Lan Luoshan aren't in the team? They put on a show with us to make your Lan family's reinforcements think that you're all dead, so they quickly escorted the 2 of them back to the Lan family. The Lan family's 3 branches will soon be in our hands, and the entire Lan family will be ours sooner or later. As for you, only death awaits you." Lan Dimeo almost fainted from anger. There was no way to use the voice transmission talisman here, so the message was cut off. That was why the 2 ingrates were allowed to succeed. Yun Shujio saw that Lan Dimeo was so angry that he couldn't say a word. She laughed softly, "You guys are really stupid. You didn't know how to cherish your dog life back in the 10,000-year-old swamp, but you actually jumped in front of me again. You're really courting death." Zhuang Ruhai and the others were suspicious when they heard her words. Could this wretched girl have some trump card? Qi Tianhui had been beaten up by Qi Anqing a few times because of Yun Shujio, so he naturally hated her to the bone. He immediately said angrily, "Grandfather, don't listen to her bluff. No matter how much evil she has, she's still not a match for so many of us." When Qi Anqing and the others heard this, they agreed. There were more than 3,000 of them, while the Lan family only had around 300 people. No matter what, the Lan family was doomed. Immediately, Qi Anqing and the others were about to make a move, but they heard Yun Shujio sneer, "If you are not afraid of dying from the poison, then make a move. Anyway, with you all taking the fall, we don't care. Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much." Qi Anqing and the others were stunned. "What do you mean?" "Nothing much. I just poisoned you when we were in the 10,000-year-old swamp." The poison is not very powerful. It will only make you die, Yun Shujio said lightly. Chapter 51-52 Compromised Qiansheng and the rest heard this and subconsciously looked inside, but they didn't find anything unusual. Mu Kelu immediately sneered, Yun Shujio, you're lying. We weren't poisoned at all. Yun Shujio shrugged her shoulders, it doesn't matter, believe it or not. Anyway, your Mu family has always been good at refining pills. Even if the poison takes effect, you can still develop an antidote. Yun Shujio's words made Zhuang Ruhai and Qiansheng feel a little uncertain. The reason was very simple. Previously in the blood-cursed miasma forest, the detoxification pills taken by the Lan family were much more powerful than the detoxification pills of the Mu family. If Yun Shujio really poisoned them, would the Mu family be able to cure them? Mu Kelu clearly sensed the thoughts of the two of them. His face was a little embarrassed as he said coldly, even if you really did poison them, they'll just kill you and find the antidote. Yun Shujio spread out her hands. I'm sorry, but I don't have any antidote on me. Besides, I don't intend to give you the antidote. Let's all die together. Don't worry, I'm a soft-hearted person. Therefore, even if the poison takes effect, you won't die immediately. Your skin and flesh will rot bit by bit. It'll take at least a month for you to die completely. Qiansheng and the others couldn't help but feel a chill run down their spines when they heard her words. For a moment, they weren't sure if what Yun Shujio said was true or not. It wouldn't matter if it was false, but if it was true, wouldn't they also die if they killed her? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. They tried to see a flaw in Yun Shujio's face, but they couldn't see anything. Mu Kelu gritted his teeth in anger. This bitch is definitely spouting nonsense. It doesn't matter even if she really poisoned us. Well, kill everyone else and leave her alive. We're not afraid that she won't hand over the antidote. Yun Shujio laughed crisply. As long as you kill one member of the Lan family, you won't be able to get the antidote. I'm a man of my word. If you don't believe me, you can try. If you push me too far, it'll return to the 10,000-year-old swamp. You won't be able to find me for the rest of your lives. However, your lives will end very soon. What a pity. Mu Kelu was about to speak when Zhuang Ruhai said with a gloomy face, how can you hand over the antidote? As long as we return to the Lan family's territory, I will give you the formula for the antidote, Yun Shujio said with a smile. How do we know if you will go back on your word? Zhuang Ruhai asked again. Don't worry about that. I always keep my word. I don't even know how to lie to demonic beasts, so why would I lie to you? Are you worse than beasts? Zhuang Ruhai almost fainted from anger. However, Yun Shujio's arrogance made him believe a little more about the poison. He had always been suspicious, especially after the incident in the blood-cursed miasma forest. He did not have much confidence in the Mu family's alchemy skills. He gritted his teeth and said, how about this, you hand over the few of us as hostages. When the time comes, use the antidote formula as a condition. Yun Shujio thought for a moment and then nodded in agreement. As for the choice of the hostage, ordinary guards would definitely not be able to do it, so Lan Luocheng and Lan Luomu were taken as hostages. The two of them looked very calm and did not show any signs of panic. After experiencing so many dangers, this little matter was already nothing to them. More importantly, they believed in Yun Shujio. Although Mu Kelu was somewhat dissatisfied with Zhuang Ruhai's decision, he could not dissuade the Zhuang family and the Qi family, so he could only agree with a gloomy face. The Guai Chao in Yun Shujio's dantian was twitching. These idiots actually believed it. Fight. Only by starting a war could it have the chance to save up a small amount of money. Chapter 51-53 Hair loss. At this time, Chi Tianhui jumped out and shouted, "Grandfather, how can we be sure that she gave us the real antidote?" Qi Anqing said coldly, "If she dares to deceive us, the Lan family must be prepared to bear the wrath of our three families." He was certain that Yun Chuzhou would not dare to deceive them with a fake antidote. If she really dared to do that, the Mu family, Zhuang family, and Qi family would have a legitimate reason to punish the Lan family. Yun Chuzhou was not that stupid. Yun Chuzhou said with a smile, "Don't worry, I've already said it. I never lie." Once she said this, not to mention the Qi family and others, even the Lan family expressed that they did not believe her. Immediately, everyone set off and left. A few days later, everyone arrived at the Lan family's territory. After the Lan family's ancestor received the news, he had already sent reinforcements. Yun Chuzhou handed the prescription to Mu Kelu. Mu Kelu looked at the dog-like handwriting on it and could not help but twitch his lips. When he saw the medicinal herbs listed on it, he could not help but frown. He knew all the medicinal herbs listed on it, but some of the medicinal herbs had conflicting medicinal properties. Was this really the antidote prescription? After he voiced his doubts, Yun Chuzhou looked at him with disdain. Speculations without facts as evidence are all nonsense. You'll know when you go back and refine it. Mu Kelu and the other two discussed. Yun Chuzhou would not dare to lie to them. She immediately released Lan Luocheng and Lan Luomu, gave them a warning, and then left. Before Mu Zian left, she stared at Yun Chuzhou for a long time with poison-like eyes before leaving. Yun Chuzhou did not put her in her eyes at all. She was happily planning her next move. She had already completed the task that the old fox had given her. In that case, Lan Luochen would not come out again for a while. Moreover, she also had the right to compete for the position of the young master of the Lan family. It was simply wonderful. What made her even happier was that the condition of the little silver snake was much better. It was estimated that it would soon return to its human form. Of course, there was also something that made her unhappy. That was that Han Dun cried all day long. It was so annoying. After this fellow applied the hair growth pill, no one knew what went wrong. Not only did the hair on his head not grow out, it even shed hair and was bald. Han Dun's current appearance was simply too horrible to look at. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. I don't want to live anymore. I can't accept my ugly appearance now. Black-hearted, you return my long hair, you return my prosperous beauty. Yun Chuzhou was too embarrassed to scold it due to her guilty conscience. She was puzzled in her heart. This hair growth pill was supposed to be very useful, but how did it become a hair loss pill on Han Dun's body? This fellow could only comfort Han Dun. Calm down, calm down. When I return to the Lan family, I will definitely develop a better hair growth pill for you. Han Dun no longer trusted her. A better hair growth pill? If it trusted her again, the last few tufts of hair would probably be lost as well. 2 days later, everyone arrived at the imperial city. The moment everyone saw the imperial city, an unprecedented sense of belonging arose in their hearts. Lan Luofang and Lan Luofang even started to cry. After everyone entered the city, they went straight to the ancestral residence. The Lan family's ancestor inquired for a while before letting them go back to rest, leaving only Elder Tua behind. After everyone left, an old man wearing a mask walked out from behind the screen. Elder Tua clearly recognized him and nodded slightly as a greeting. The ancestor of the Lan family asked a few more details before saying with a smile, that little girl definitely did not poison them. With just her mouth, she solved many problems. Chapter 51-54, What's the use of you? The masked elder sighed. Her strategy is indeed outstanding, but her spiritual power is a little low. Master, are you really going to praise her and give her this opportunity? The old ancestor of the Lan family sighed and did not speak for a long time. When old Tuo and the masked elder thought that he would not speak again, they heard him say with a somewhat weathered tone, "Giving her a chance is also giving the Lan family a chance." Hei Shinjo naturally did not know about the conversation between the three of them. This guy followed Lan Dimeo back to the third branch of the Lan family. She thought that she would see a good show, but she only found out that the show had ended when she reached the third branch. After receiving Lan Dimeo's voice transmission talisman, the ancestor of the Lan family killed the Zhuang family and the others in a thunderous manner. Even Zhuangshi's family was massacred overnight. Yun Shujiu was somewhat touched. Compared to the ancestor of the Lan family, she was still a little tender, and she was also a little soft-hearted. After some self-reflection, this guy returned to his own courtyard. Hong Ling and the other two saw that Yun Shujiu had returned safely, so they were naturally extremely happy. After Yun Shujiu bathed, she called Hong Ling over and inquired, but there was no useful information. After dinner, this guy suddenly remembered the matter between Xue Wuji and Yun Qi. He immediately took out Xue Wuji's voice transmission talisman and sent it over. "Brother Wuji, do you have a wife and a son?" After receiving the voice transmission talisman, Xue Wuji almost threw it out. After a while, he said, "Little sister Jiu, what nonsense are you talking about? I'm still single." After Yun Shujiu received his reply, she snorted coldly, "Brother Wuji, since you're not telling the truth, then I have nothing to say." "Oh right, I found a son-in-law for my future daughter. His nickname is Royer." On the other side, Xue Wuji fell to the ground with a thud. His head was buzzing, and he was shocked and confused. And Feng looked at him speechlessly and asked, "Young Master Wuji, what happened to you?" Xue Wuji mumbled, "I saw a ghost. I saw a ghost." And Feng, Xue Wuji pinched himself hard to calm himself down. How did little sister Jiu know about Royer? He even asked if he had a wife and a son. Could it be that she had met that unfaithful woman? When he thought of this possibility, Xue Wuji was both excited and embarrassed. If little sister Jiu and that facial paralysis knew that he had been raped, oh God! He was too ashamed to face anyone. After a long while, Xue Wuji asked with a trembling voice, "Little sister Jiu, you? How did you know?" When Yun Shujiu heard Xue Wuji's words, she curled her lips. It seemed that it was true. TSK, it had to be said that fate was really amazing. Wu Ji's head and Qi Qi had actually become a couple, and they even had a son. When he thought about the two of them not only having sex, but also having a son that was already so big, this fellow looked at the small silver snake that was cultivating. He opened his mouth and said silently, "What's the use of having you?" Coincidentally, the little silver snake turned his head around and happened to see him. However, he did not know how to read lips, so he asked, "What did you say?" Yun Shujiu said without blushing, "I said, I love you to death." The little silver snake's heart instantly bloomed like 100 flowers, but he said coldly, Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much." Yun Shujiu cursed in her heart, this tsundere. However, the fact that they could not have sex was not the fault of the gigolo. It was mainly caused by that damn Guai Chao. Chapter 51-55. A howl. Every day the Guai Chao and its Dantian knew that it was going to be scolded again. It didn't matter, just scold it. If it retaliated, it wouldn't be called Go Wei Ba. Of course, the main reason was that it couldn't retaliate even if it wanted to. Who asked it to not be able to speak? It hadn't been in a good mood recently because it knew that after returning to the Lan family, Yun Shujiu wouldn't let it out. It didn't have the chance to accumulate a small amount of money. It was fine if it had never gone out before, but this time it had gone out for such a long time. It was simply too uncomfortable to keep it in its dantian. "Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much." This fellow was begging the gods and Buddhas in its heart. Hurry up and give the smelly girl some trouble. The more troublesome it was, the better. This way, it would have a chance to get out. If Hei Shinjo knew that this fellow was so eager to cause chaos in the world, she would probably be furious to death. After cursing Guai Chao dozens of times, he finally replied to Xue Wuji, "You're really lucky. You slept with Chi Chi and didn't get killed by her. You're really lucky." After receiving Yun Shujia's reply, Xue Wuji smiled bitterly in his heart. It was true that he slept with the unfaithful woman first, but she was the one who slept with him later, okay? Thinking of those romantic things, Xue Wuji's face and ears turned red. And Feng, who was standing at the side, was dumbfounded. What kind of wind was this? Xue Wuji calmed himself down with great difficulty and sent a voice transmission to Yun Shujiu. "Where did you meet her? Are you together? Is she good with Royer?" Yun Shujiu replied very quickly this time, "I don't know where she and Royer are either, but they seem to be pretty good. Let's talk about the details when we meet." After receiving the reply, Xue Wuji immediately jumped up and said to Enfeng, "Don't be lazy. Let's get down to business." Enfeng was speechless. He was obviously tired from making too much noise and wanted to rest, but now it was his fault. Yun Shujiu put away Xue Wuji's voice transmission talisman and thought about the situation of Chi Chi and her son. Chi Chi and Royer looked pretty good, so they shouldn't be in any danger. She just didn't know where they were. Just as she was thinking about it, Han Dun began to howl again every day. "My long hair. My beauty. I don't want to live anymore." Yun Shujiu was really annoyed by his howl. She shouted, "Shut up. I'll give you a postgraduate hair pill tomorrow." Han Dun cried, "I won't fall for your trick again. You don't have good intentions at all. You just don't want me to be well. You're just jealous of my beauty." Yun Shujiu was speechless. She only wanted to give this guy 2 words, retard. Where did he get the courage to think that she would be jealous of him? Could it be that the baldy gave him the courage? However, when this guy thought that the reason why Han Dun was so miserable was most likely because of her, he patiently said, "You're my spiritual pet. Of course, I also want you to be as powerful as possible, so I sincerely want to help you refine the hair growth pill. Don't worry, this time, I will first use other demon beasts for experiments, and then give it to you to consume." After hearing these words, Han Dun finally stopped and prepared to give Yun Shujiu another chance. If this time it still failed, it would howl to death. Therefore, from the second day onwards, Yun Shujiu began to refine hair growth pills that were suitable for demon beasts. However, for some reason, even though she had improved the prescription, the demon beasts that were used for experiments still ran away. This guy was very confused. What exactly went wrong? Chapter 51-56. Green Sweater. Yun Shujiu could not figure it out. Just when she was feeling frustrated, Han Dun howled again. "You black-hearted person, you must have done it on purpose. You obviously have a way to stimulate the growth of hair, but you pretended not to have it. You are too bad." Yun Shujiu said unhappily, "What nonsense are you talking about? If I had a good way, would I not tell you?" Han Dun snorted coldly, "Humph. What a nice way of saying it. You really know a person's face but not his heart. Explain to me, what's with this long-haired rabbit? I've investigated it thoroughly. It was originally just an ordinary wind-blade rabbit. But after eating your medicinal pill, not only has its grade increased a lot, but it also has such an attractive body of long hair. Therefore, you're just trying to fool me. You obviously have such a good medicinal pill, yet you didn't give it to me. You're really too heartless." Yun Shujiu was stunned. She had really forgotten about the long-haired rabbit. However, back then, in order to test the antidote for the rejuvenation pill, she had muddle-headedly allowed a few rabbits to mutate. As for how they mutate, she had no idea at all. When Han Dun saw that Yun Shujiu did not make a sound, He thought that she had a guilty conscience and howled even more fiercely. Yun Shujio regained her senses and said coldly, "Shut up. If you continue to howl, I will also pull off the remaining few tufts of your fur." Han Dun's howl came to an abrupt end, and he sobbed pitifully. Yun Shujio was speechless. She could not be bothered with him and withdrew her spiritual sense. Yun Shujio couldn't find the reason for the failure of the germinal pill for a while, so she put it aside for the time being. Maybe one day, she would have a flash of inspiration and find the reason. In the next few days, besides cultivating in the courtyard, Yun Shujio went to the library of the ancestral residence to read books. As Lan Luocheng and the others had turned their backs on the dark and joined the light, this guy's life was quite comfortable. On this day, this fellow had just woken up in the morning when she heard the long-haired rabbit's mournful cry from her divine sense. She hurriedly used her divine sense to probe into the spirit beast pouch and saw the situation inside. She was so angry that she was amused. She saw that Han Dun was sticking rabbit fur to her body. As for the origin of the rabbit fur, it was naturally pulled from the long-haired rabbit's body. Although the long-haired rabbit's grade had increased by quite a bit, it could not be compared to the ancient vicious beast Han Dun. Therefore, it could only let Han Dun pluck its fur. "Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much." Yun Shujio was angry and amused at the same time. However, she thought of a way to appease Han Dun. "Han Dun, stop tormenting the long-haired rabbit. I will ask Mao Qiu to knit a sweater for you. I guarantee that it will be long-haired, and you can have it in any color you want." When Han Dun heard that, he immediately said excitedly, "Really? Then I want a green one." The corner of Yun Shujio's eyes twitched. "Green? Are you sure?" "Yes, I want a green one, because green represents life, so that my long hair can grow faster," Han Dun said excitedly. Yun Shujio did not say anything more. "As long as you are happy, it's good. After all, not everyone has the courage to go out with a green hat." With the promise of the sweater, Han Dun finally stopped. As his injuries improved, the number of times a certain deity ran away became more and more frequent. At first, Hei Shinjo could still enjoy the view. Later, a certain deity gained experience and stayed in the bedroom to cultivate. Once he transformed, he would use the blanket to cover himself. Hei Shinjo could only watch helplessly. Di Baiming had just recovered when Xue Wuji and Enfeng arrived. The moment they met, Xue Wuji found an excuse to send Enfeng to the courtyard. He could not wait to ask, "Little sister Jo, quickly tell me about that unfaithful woman." You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.